All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are just going to get started. Jay is going to be joining us as our third judge in a minute. He's got to finish a pooping. So, real quick, Tato is going to be hosting primarily, and Antonio will be his first judge, co-judge, and then Jay will be his third co-judge going into that. They will rotate Tato, Antonio, Jay, so and so. So it'll go in that order. But yeah, I said, hey, let's do an exhibition of debates. It was initially going to be drunk, but then when Badi signed up and he doesn't drink, it doesn't have to be a drunk, but it's going to be a chill exhibition style, whatever. And so yeah, I had Austin Pezhal write the question, so it's unbiased with the judges. Everyone knows it going in. It's an exhibition. I trust everyone, but yeah. So I'll start off with Chad. Chad, I know you love debating exhibition style. Generally speaking, what do you think of these questions? And you ready to have a little bit of fun?
Oh, these questions are fun. I like the format. I like the style. I like how you kind of like let people choose a strength.
Yeah.
And then they also get the first stab at an answer too. I think that's
Fair.
kind of a neat spin on this, because it's very stressful when you jump in there and you're like, oh, whoever's really fast at thinking and typing can get the first best thing or whatever.
Exactly.
And this one, we get our strength and our like awesome like first pick, and maybe we'll get a leg up in those, and maybe only those. But yeah, I'm looking forward to debating you guys. We're all like top ranked in other places, so excited.
There we go. Madi, without any spoilers of how your current debating career is in Battleground, we all know that you're starting to take this seriously, and obviously it's an exhibition, so serious is not the case here, but your mindset is a little more serious than it would be usually. So what were your thoughts going into this exhibition, and are you ready to de-stress a little bit, but still have a little bit of fun?
Well, first off, you're saying when I joined, you invited me to do this. So you took the drinking part out for yourself, so I don't want to take the blame for that.
Because I like you, man. I was just trying, whatever.
But no, man, taking this seriously. I don't know if I beat Jeremy or not, and if I face Joe or someone else, who knows? It's chaos right now. But well, I didn't really prep for this one either. I
hear that's just a ladder, bro.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fun.
There you go. Oh shit, what happened? So yeah, Tato, as a judge, you have plenty of experience doing this. So what are your thoughts judging this exhibition?
All of you guys are great. I have voted for you. I have voted against you. You are all tremendous debaters, and I cannot wait to see what happens here.
There you go. Antonio, you've never judged a debate before, so you're going into this really fresh. What is your thoughts going in, and how do you like these questions, generally speaking?
That's the thing. That's the reason why I think I'll actually have someone, have a good time, because I do love all these questions. I like all you guys, so I'm curious to see how your perspectives differ. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see how this goes, man.
And Jay, you were a last-minute replacement because unfortunately Sean Sandberg just had to drop out just for personal reasons. So if you're not mad at us for taking you away from Twitch, what are your thoughts on this debate? And without even knowing the questions, you're completely blind.
That's what I'm saying. I am completely blind, but are we all just going to skip over the fact that Tato worked his way around calling you all master debaters? But okay. It's great. I have 2 school shooters and somebody that people would be afraid to fly on an airplane with. Especially after the haircut. It looks sharp though, buddy. Yeah, I have no idea what the fucking questions are. Tato was already slurring, so I know he's lit as fuck. I can't wait to hear what the questions are and what the debate is. Well, I think there's going to be 8 minutes of straight yelling.
Yeah,
this is true. All right, so
Pokemon, bro?
Is Pikachu from above?
There you go, Chad. Are you asking a question? Is this what this is?
I just want to make a statement. I turned 32 at midnight.
Hey.
Oh, happy birthday, motherfucker!
Hey, Opa!
Is that the caliber you're going to use the next time you walk into a school?
Oh, 32.
Speaking of shooters, question number 1. This was picked from the strength of Chad. So how I'm doing this exhibition is every competitor is going to be able to choose their own strength, and then the writer is going to choose 2 random questions for a total of 5. First to 2 points advances to the speed round. Second to 2 points joins them. If you don't have 2 points, fuck off. You lose. You get nothing, sir. So Chad, you randomly your strength is first, and it is, besides Thanos, who is the best villain inside the MCU?
Not
Are you
my
sure that was
strength,
his
but my
strength?
There's a lot of potential in that.
Is that-
question.
is
my
that-
strength is the third one.
Okay, so I all right, I'm wrong. I'm
Just
doing a
one
lot
one.
here.
There we go.
All right. So Madi, good thing we're not live. Oh wait, so Madi, randomly your strength is first of MCU, and the question one that you'll be going last on. So we're going to go in the inverse order: Chad, Henry, and then Madi. Besides Thanos, who is the best villain in the MCU? So what we're going to do is we're going to do 60 seconds opening, then we're going to do 90 seconds rebuttal, not open debate, just rebuttals, and we're going to talk about both the answers, and then 90 seconds closing. We might bump it up to 2 minutes after the first question if we realize 90 seconds not enough time to talk about two movies. It's exhibition. We're not trying to yell it over each other. We're trying to get our full opinions out. So with that said, Chad, are you ready?
Sure.
I'm ready. Madi, is you ready?
Let's do this, bro.
Judges, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So with that said, Chad, 90 seconds when you begin speaking, or 60 seconds when you begin speaking.
The MCU is not known for its villains, but there are still a plethora of pretty great villains in the MCU. And I picked Ultron. I think Ultron is the best villain in the MCU besides Thanos. Ultron has the biggest impact in the Infinity Saga. He's only in one movie, but he still has the biggest impact. His actions reverberate throughout the MCU. Because of Ultron, you get all the infighting in Civil War. Tony signs the Accords. It sets off Tony's redemption arc that doesn't conclude until the end of Endgame. Wanda is used by Ultron. Pietro is killed by Ultron. Ultron creates Vision. Wanda falls in love with Vision and then loses Vision, so she's very traumatized by Ultron. Thanos gets the Mind Stone because of Ultron. Ultron is obviously the biggest threat in his movie. He is trying to destroy the world, and he's also a tragic figure because that's how he's programmed to basically protect the world, but from humanity. His plan is like Thanos's before Thanos. No strings on me is the iconic catchphrase, played brilliantly by James Spader. And he affects every Avenger, not just one, not just two. And yeah, I cede my time.
There you go. As you were talking, I was like, all right, we're going to do 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 90 seconds. Because at that point, closing, you don't need to read.
I didn't know that. Maybe
you did a great job. You went to it. You went to a minute 10. I just let you go. You did a good job.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to jump over to me. All right. So when you think of the MCU, other than Thanos, which at that point you're thinking the big picture of who's controlling the Avengers and the Infinity Saga and all that stuff, I want to go on a more personal level, and I'm going with Vulture in Spider-Man: Homecoming. The reason I'm going with Vulture is because he has the most relatable personality and backstory of his because he feels like a real person. In the MCU, everything is so grandiose in scale, and that's where really Thanos takes that. So if you take Thanos out of that, you don't really care about any of the other big scale pictures. And when you think of a superhero villains, like all of the lifetimers that are all-timers, like the Joker, for example, in the Dark Knight or any of those, they're more small scale, but they're also more personal, whether because of their backstory or just because of their personality. Michael Keaton's portrayal as Vulture in Spider-Man: Homecoming not only has that real life blue collar aspect to it, but he also has that family man aspect to it. He has his relationship with his daughter Liz and their backstory because it builds it up through the entire story. If he's doing this for his family, and then he starts to really get that ego and starts to get that villainous mindset in there. So the scene alone between Peter and the Vulture, Adrian Toomes, inside the car is one of the most iconic things in the entire MCU, and that is in a small scale, singular Spider-Man: Homecoming movie. So he just really stands out. And like I said, you got everything that he's doing as not only a villain, but also just as a human being. So you feel for him, but obviously you cannot accept what he's doing. And just his relationship between him and Spider-Man is so impactful and it's so powerful. And Michael Keaton really brings it. 90 seconds. All right. And when Midi comes back, he will have his 90 seconds. I feel like he didn't plan that out.
I did not plan it out. Sorry, I just had to plug in my laptop. That's all.
You're all right. No judging here. It's an exhibition. It's all.
Yeah, it's not like we're taking this seriously.
All right. So I will actually now have that scrolling on the bottom. All right. So when you start 90 out, Tato can take over the 90 seconds now.
All right. So the MCU outside of Thanos, or even with Thanos, the best villain is Killmonger. Let's be completely real. Played by Michael B. Jordan to perfection in Ryan Coogler's Black Panther. The reason that he's the best villain is partly because you actually agree with some of the things that he said. The guys that you guys put up, Ultron, it's basically just Siri melded with Tony Stark and doesn't really have anything that you're like, yeah, I agree with this person. Same with the Vulture. Like, you're just like, all right, yeah, he's a family guy, but he's also just, outside of that one car scene, you're not really thinking of him too much. Killmonger is the one guy that every time he's on screen, he is magnetic to look at, and you are at the same time terrified of what he's going to do, but also you're intrigued and like loving what he's doing on screen. Whether it's him stealing from the museum because it was technically stolen from Africa in the first place, or his whole speech at the end where he's staring into the sunset of "Bury me at sea" instead of because I prefer death over bondage. Like, there's so many parts of his performance and him as a character that you not only agree with, but you are scared of as well. And that's the best kind of villain. It's never just going to be like, yeah, he's a good villain because he's scary, or he's a good villain because he did this, or he killed people, or whatever. A great villain is someone that you can see yourself agreeing with, and it terrifies you that you might agree with him.
10 seconds. All right.
All right, now we're going to jump back over to Chad for 2 minutes, and at this point, you're going to talk about your pick and your two opponents' picks. So use your time wisely.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, my opponents made really great points. I don't disagree. I don't think Killmonger's bad. I don't think Vulture's bad. I really enjoy those performances quite a bit. I don't think that makes mine terrible, though. I really love my actor's performance as well. James Spader, I think, does it brilliantly. I think the sound design on his voice is just kind of epic. When he says "no strings on me," you just get chills. But when I think about the other performances, I just really think about their impact in the rest of the MCU. Like, if it's like, what's the one best villain inside of a single film, then maybe I would think about yours a little more. But I want to think of a grander villain, a villain that has so much impact, so much influence, just so much just a seismic effect in the rest of the MCU. And when I think of Vulture, Vulture, he's selling stolen parts, stuff like that. He wants to support his family, and he does his job, but then he gets thwarted. He goes to jail. You really don't hear from him much again. Even inside of the rest of the Spider-Man trilogy, you don't really hear much about Vulture anymore because he's not that interesting of a villain. There's not much more you can do going forward with him. With Killmonger, I agree with a lot of what Mehdi said. But when going forward, I mean, it's just he's a one and done character pretty much. He came in, he turned Wakanda upside down, and then he dies. And that's basically it. I mean, he affects one Avenger. That's the same thing with Vulture. He affects one Avenger. And it just really, I think the most devious ones are the villains that shake things up for a lot more people, do a lot more things that
And
really...
time. Sorry.
No?
Yeah, just for refreshing, give like 30 seconds, minute. Yeah, give hints. But yeah,
my bad.
All right.
We will move on to Mehdi.
No, me.
And Mehdi.
As always, regretting doing anything with Tato. All right. So the difference between Vulture, Killmonger, and Ultron is mine's still alive, so that's a starter there. But the thing with Ultron is he's just a one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, because no one really cares about that movie. And Age of Ultron is one of those movies where out of the three of our movies, his movie is definitely the lesser. So not only do you really not care about the villain as a whole, but you don't even care about the movie, so you don't even go back to revisit it. The difference between Vulture and Black Panther is Black Panther or Killmonger is this character is kind of a repetition of Black Panther. It's literally just the two characters. He just wants to take over and be king, and we've just seen that storyline in that. The difference with Vulture is, though, it is a direct result of everything that happened in the Avengers. Like, literally, the reason that they are doing it is they were going to start over and they were going to just, like I said, be the blue collar. But then I forgot the Avengers thing where they came up and cleaned it up. They took over, and now they really just at that point just pushed the working man out of the way. So that he was bitter about that because he has a family to take care of. So with that, he was able to steal some of the Chitauri alien gear, and now he's so smart as a character, and it's not throwing in your face how smart he is. He's just using that gear, and they switch it up, and it was patient. It took them 7 years or 5 years or whatever the exact timeline. Like I said, it's exhibition. Don't bog down on that. But it took a certain amount of years to really get in that because how patient this storyline is, how smart this character is. But he's still alive, so that he's still going to have a further impact in that. So he's going to be part of the big picture of different characters. The relationship
30 seconds.
The relationship between Spider-Man and Keaton is Adrian Toomes he is the reason that Spider-Man really start to build up within the MCU, because the Spider-Man really just wanted to be just the neighborhood Spider-Man, but then he realized that even within his neighborhood, things are a lot more big scale than he can handle. So he really needs to grow up. This was part of coming of age for Spider-Man. Like I said, Killmonger, he's fine in the movie, but it's just a repetition of Black Panther. And take him out of that movie, and you're not really worried about anything big picture either.
Time. Alrighty, we will now move on to Madi.
You sure this time? All right.
I believe so. 2 minutes when you start.
Saying Killmonger's a repetition of Black Panther is a ridiculous statement because they're two opposite sides of the same coin. They both want people to be helped, but they go about it at different angles and different ways. It's kind of similar to how Magneto and Xavier go about things. Is they both want mutants to be treated as equals, but one of them goes in a direction that the other one can't agree with, and that's how they work against each other. They're not the same person. It's just a heads and tails argument. The other thing I will say is Ultron is basically just a cover song of Iron Man through the entire movie. Like he doesn't bring anything new. His performance is basically just a ripoff of the guy who created him, and he's much more terrifying in the comics. Vulture, I will give Michael Keaton credit that he does make it somewhat interesting in the Spider-Man movies, but at the same time, he doesn't do anything to Spider-Man that really changes Spider-Man's ideals. That's more from Tony Stark in that film and from Spider-Man kind of learning on his own. It's not because of the villain. Whereas in Black Panther, the reason that he goes to the UN meeting at the end and establishes that Wakanda is going to help the rest of the world with its resources, he changes the course of what human history is going to be for the next oncoming generations because of his actions. And yeah, he's dead. That doesn't mean that he's a lesser villain. Being dead doesn't say that, it's, he can't do this in the future, he can't do that in the future. It's not about that. We're talking about what they've already done. Each of these guys have only had one movie to go off, so that's a ridiculous argument to make as well.
30 seconds.
In that one movie, the one who's had the most impact is Killmonger, because he's the one who has inspired T'Challa to be the king that he can be, the best king that he can be, not just for the people of Wakanda, but try and be a leader for the rest of the world as well. And yes, we won't see that, unfortunately, because of Chadwick Boseman's passing, but we're going to see the effects of what Wakanda is doing for the rest of the world, and that's going to come up in the next movies.
5.
This is the kind of stuff that we're going to see, and that's because of Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, inspiring him that he has to be better than what he has been.
And time.
All right, so that was a fantastic first round. So I came up with this idea as we were going in. So instead of just saying your winner, I want each judge to rank their picks. So you also to give a little bit of weight and kind of do the.
Do we not get closings?
I was about to ask.
You're right. All right. So yeah,
All
so I'm sorry. I have to pee, so my mind's a little elsewhere. But I will say, going into that, think about that. But going into the closings, so good thing for editing. So with that said, I came up with an idea. Instead of just saying your winner, rank your ones, and then we'll pick the average, and then that'll be who's the winner. So it's not just this, because then it also adds a little bit of whatever. So Chad, 1 minute when you go.
I knew the movie was going to come up. I think the movie is a pretty decent movie. It's better than people give it credit for, but we're not talking about the movie. It's the villain. And when he stumbles in, like a mechanical freaking like marionette, just like really creepy though. It's so uncanny valley that it's creepy as hell. And he has such an impact in this movie and the rest of the MCU that I just think he is the best villain. And also he, you say Killmonger mirrors, Black Panther. Ultron mirrors Tony so much that he even has a lot of the cocky mannerisms that Tony has, which also makes him very creepy, very close to home. And you also kind of want to root for Ultron a little bit when you see all of the stuff
10
problems that
seconds.
humanity has caused so much, and then it kind of mirrors what Thanos does later, but Ultron did it first.
And we will move on to the next person's closing argument.
That's Henry. Okay, I was like, don't say it again. It's Henry.
Henry is muted.
I hit my mic and it does that. I don't know. It's stupid. All right, so everything that I said about Ultron still stands. He's one of those characters that there's nothing original about it. It doesn't play as big of a picture as we think, and it's one of those things that it's just so forgettable as a performance and as a character within the MCU. Killmonger, he's a character that even though he has a little bit of family issues and some quotable lines, when you think of the big picture of things, he only really has the one scene within the family where the high auntie around that time, but he didn't really get enough time to explore his family stuff that you really would have been able to get with the personal level of what he's doing within Wakanda of itself. Sure, he's egotistical and he's got a grudge, quote unquote, but you don't really see that other than the fact of Michael B. Jordan's good performance. But in terms of writing, you don't really see that. Whereas in the Vulture has a direct, he's directly responsible for Spider-Man having that final arc of becoming a superhero going into the second movie when he's underneath the concrete and the part of the building. And it's that iconic scene from the comic book where he's able to rise up and use it all stuff because leading into that, Vulture is so smart. He was able to trick Spider-Man into getting into that, and he really lead him to who he's become today.
And you disregard the last word of that argument. Today gets taken out.
So who he's become?
When is it?
Forever.
Yeah, but when does it happen?
It could have happened 10 years ago. Who knows? We'll never know.
Henry clubs in 60.
The best villains are the guys that you remember the most. All right. Hannibal Lecter stole Silence of the Lambs with 20 minutes of screen time. And the same thing happened here with Michael B. Jordan stealing the movie from phenomenal performances that were given by Andy Serkis, Chadwick Boseman, Lupita Nyong'o, Denai Guerrero. The entire cast is amazing, but everyone remembered Michael B. Jordan's phenomenal performance. Why? Because he's a villain that you can kind of see yourself agreeing with. And not only that, he's showing us not only what is happening because of the racial discrimination that's going on in Western Hemisphere countries and elsewhere as well, but he's also showing what the dark side of that is and showing us how far we could go if we don't stop it right now. It's a brilliant way of showing humans in general about the dark side of what could happen, and then having Chadwick Boseman be the opposite, saying this is what we want to do instead. Michael B. Jordan is the best Marvel villain because he shows a side of humanity that we don't want to agree that exists.
And time.
Henry, you're muted, dog.
Yep, we will move on.
All right, hold on. I got this. Hold on.
Fun first round.
So now that is the end of round one. So like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to go Tato, Antonio, and Jay. And then starting from 3, 2, and 1, explain who you're picking for who in the third place, second place, and first place. But with that said, since you're explaining the 3, try and, not go overboard. We don't want this to be, 5 minutes per explanation. So Tato.
Before you start, Tato, Ant-Man, Jay, what are your guys' cash apps? I'm just going to randomly give a donation.
No.
This is
all right.
Tato,
At Jay Burns, the A is a 4 though.
No. Jay Burns' cash app is Henry Confident. No.
Joke's on you. I can't spell that.
If you're gonna get the point, I want the money. All right, Tato. Third, second, first place. Who gets your votes in what order?
Chadwick comes in third on this one for me. Just kind of didn't quite get there. Henry in second and Medee in first, with just like how agreeable Killmonger is and like how he steals the movie from everyone else in that.
I thought you were going in first. I thought you were going to reverse order, bitch. Damn it.
My guy did the Henry Medee switch again.
All right, Antonio, third, second, and first place. What's your order, and a brief explanation of why for each?
I think I had a reverse order. I had Medee coming in third place, which is weird because I never thought actually would think that Killmonger actually is I don't know, least sympathetic villain in a weird way. It's just, I don't know, didn't really resonate with me that much. Henry, I got you in second. Made good points. Actually, I have a little bit more respect for Keaton as a villain now. To be your points. And Chad really won me over. I actually didn't really think about Ultron in this way. I do think that the main thing that stuck with me was like, yeah, the movie is not really that well received, but I think without Ultron, it would have been way worse. So, yeah, Spader is a very underrated villain. That's the reason why I think compared to Thanos, I think he's the best one out of all of these three. So
there
that's
we
my
go.
Chad.
And Jay, same thing. And now I'm actually even more glad of why I'm doing the voting this way, because technically we could all have 3 different singles, so it makes the most sense. Jay, 3, 2, and 1. What's your order and why?
So 3 is going to be Chad for the simple fact that I'm pretty sure that almost everybody had a deconstruction of why Ultron wasn't that great of a villain, whether it's the fact that he is a little bit manipulative, but we have seen that, and I don't think that Chad did a good enough job for me to counter anybody saying that. It's not that he had a terrible argument, it's just that there was a lot said that he didn't actually back up. Next is Henry. As much as, and this one was really close. This was back and forth for the longest time. It actually took until the closing, because I didn't like the fact that Medivh went to attacking everybody else's picks in his opening and not waiting until the second one. It's a nitpick, but it did, in my eyes, cost you points. Henry, I thoroughly enjoy Keaton as the Vulture, as that blue-collar villain who starts a criminal syndicate or organization from the ground level. The fact of the matter is it didn't work for me, because I didn't get enough of the sinisterness of him. I just got a lot of he's still alive, so he gets to come back, and that's not a good enough argument for me.
There you go.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
We're good. All right. So after doing the math, in third place, not getting the point with a 2.3 average, is Chad Webb. In second place, also not getting the point with a even 2, Henry Confidential, and getting the point for what is the best MCU villain inside the MCU outside Thanos is Medivh with a 1.6. So Medivh is getting the first point.
That was a brilliant close, Medivh. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to pull
if it wasn't for your close, Medivh, it would have gone to Henry.
Yeah.
No, it would have gone to Henry, and we would have been here just being like, okay, well, fuck this. Let's rank choice vote the bitch.
All right. So
and with that, we will move on to the second question. In the realm of Batman, which is Henry's strength.
Oh, God.
Who is the most useful and helpful supporting character to Batman in a single movie?
There's
we will
one
start
answer.
off with Henry.
No, I go last. Start with Chad.
All right.
Oh, no, start with Medivh. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was like, wait, no.
Yeah, no, we'll figure it out.
We'll get there.
It's a pilot exhibition.
Just
real quick. So based on the screen. So Medivh, Chad, Henry. Just competitors. Was it all that make the most sense? Did I feel like we had plenty of time, but also wasn't too much time?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay. Chad, what are your thoughts?
Are we still? Yeah, never mind. You're good. Wait, what? What are my thoughts on the
time-wise? Did that seem like
perfect?
All right. So what?
92-60.
Yep.
As long as Tato kind of like announces it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tato. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
All right. So Medivh, 90 seconds when you begin.
Which question is this?
The Batman one.
Batman.
I'm writing it out now.
I know. Sorry, I just had to
I know.
relook at my answer. That's all.
Exactly.
All right. So I went with Superman in Batman versus Superman. And the reason is, throughout this movie, we see Batman in this dark, grim place that he's been in for who knows how long, where he started killing people, where he started going against his own code, where he started kind of going against the things that a lot of people think of the ideal Batman, where he's not killing and he's not using guns, but now he doesn't care. He's become callous over the years, and he's really starting to just say, you know what, Gotham hasn't gotten better after all these decades of me doing this work. He even says as much to Alfred, but he begins becoming callous, and Superman having this beacon of hope ideology and reminding him that even this alien who unfortunately caused the death of so many people in Man of Steel still has a mother and still has someone that he cares for before his own life. The whole Martha moment at the end is really just Superman saying, you're going to kill me, that's fine, but please make sure that my mom is still alive. And that one moment where he remembers that there are
30
little
seconds.
boys who just want their parents to stay alive, and he doesn't want to put another person through that situation again, bringing him back, and then bringing him back to an idea of Batman that everyone can kind of know and agree with, where he doesn't kill people, where he doesn't use the excessive violence that causes people to die in front of him, and doesn't use guns.
Fan.
That is why Superman is the most helpful character to him, because it's reminding him of who he can be and showing him why he has to be that way.
Fan.
And
Alrighty, we will move on to Chad. 90 seconds when you begin speaking.
60 or 90? Okay.
90.
I picked for this question Robin in Batman Forever. Robin and Batman both need each other. They're basically both, I don't want to say two sides of the same coin, but they're both complementary to each other because they're both orphans. They both want to do good. They both want to, basically save Gotham and do the right thing. Robin is the protege Batman needs to pass on his legacy. Robin is always trying to help, even when Batman doesn't ask for it. Robin will be there for Batman through thick and thin. He'll be in the field fighting side by side with Batman. He'll save Batman's life, and he does in the film. Robin does all of this because he wants a family, somewhere to belong. Batman and Alfred give him that. In return, he gives them his undying devotion. Robin is the supporting character, the sidekick, the friend, the brother you need to have your back. Robin is always there. Even
30
when
seconds.
even when he is, he's always there for you. You want your boy there, Robin, to always have your back. And Robin for the win.
Just to be a little nicer to everybody, just kind of whisper it the seconds. They're hearing you giving them the things. It's just a little jarring when you say it.
It just come through real soft, like 30 seconds.
30 seconds. You know what I mean? It just
ASMR.
It picks it up good. So I know you're not screaming or nothing, but just to be fair, it kind of is a little scary. Like, oh yeah, all right.
Holy shit! 30 seconds. I got you.
The Heinekens are kicking in, so I'll be lecturing a lot more as the time goes on. All right. All right, so when you think of Batman, you think of all of his gadgets and his gear and what makes him Batman as a character. And I'm picking Lucius Fox within Batman Begins as the most helpful and useful character in a single Batman movie, because Lucius Fox literally provides Christian Bale's Batman and Bruce Wayne with his actual tech and gear that he starts off the entire Dark Knight trilogy. It's a single movie, but it all it steps within the film of Batman Begins. Lucius Fox not only provides him with all this information, but he's willing to keep it on the DL, because obviously he never inherently says, yo, my name is Bruce Wayne and I'm Batman, but it's pretty obvious. Don't treat him like he's dumb. He knows what he's doing. He's not only got his back as a character and keeping his secret identity, but he's also helping him with his literal inventions in tech and gear. He introduced him to the tumbler. He introduced him to the wings that he uses to fly, and with the electric shock and all that stuff. He helps him out with all of his gear and everything. So the reason that Lucius Fox is the most helpful is because the entire Dark Knight trilogy, once again, we're using the single movies, but the entire Dark Knight trilogy is more grounded and more realistic. So the fact that we're using all these military weapons and gear and all that stuff that just didn't get funded and just didn't get pushed out to the actual military itself, it just showcases that, hey, I'm useful, I'm helpful, and I got your back. It's the tech. It's the concept of the man in the chair without not being it in your face. It's not throwing you like, hey, I'm directly being your sidekick, but he is the most helpful, because without Lucius Fox's parts and equipment and tips, we wouldn't have the Batman that we have in the entire Dark Knight trilogy that starts in Batman Begins.
Strike those last 5 words.
Strike that starts in Batman Begins from the record.
Okay, you still heard it?
Strike 3 pitcher. Madi, 2 minutes when you begin.
I love that you guys both picked second most helpful versions of your character or most helpful characters in your movie. Henry, Batman Begins. It's Michael Caine's Alfred who is the most helpful. Arguably, even Rachel Dawes being more helpful as someone who reminds him of some of the things he needs to do. Lucius just constructing equipment for him. Yeah, it's helpful, but it's not more helpful than Alfred being a father figure or Rachel being the person that he kind of strives to get to that point where he needs to be like, all right, this is someone I need to work my way to. Chad, you picked Robin from Batman Forever when Robin from Lego Batman was right there, who is a lot more helpful to not only Bruce Wayne and Batman, but helpful in general of the plot. Like in Batman Forever, he doesn't really do much except show up at the end as Robin and then make a couple like 60s jokes of like holy whatever the hell he says, holy bat nipples Batman or whatever the hell he says, but he doesn't really push the plot forward in a way that a Robin should, and that one unfortunately comes more in the sequel movie of Batman and Robin than it does in Batman Forever. Superman in that one movie reminds Batman of who he is, or who he's supposed to be rather, not just providing him with gadgets, not just being the second guy who's there like fighting next to him, as someone who is inspiring Batman to be the best Batman he can be instead of who he's been over the past few years. That's kind of one of the ideologies that happen in some of these other movies as well. In Batman Forever, you see Bruce just kind of in this weird spot and Robin is just kind of there. He's like, oh, there's another orphan. Let me just be with him. It doesn't inspire him to do anything. He's just there as a sidekick. Lucius Fox doesn't do anything besides provide him with materials. That's not helping him. That's just enabling and keeping a secret. That there's a difference between being helpful to him and just being there.
Time. And we will move on to Chad with your 2 minutes when you begin.
I mean, if you think Robin and Batman Forever doesn't do much, just watch the movie again. Robin does quite a bit in this movie. He shows up, after experiencing such a huge tragedy. He almost just kind of wants to give up, but then, Batman opens his home to Robin, and then Robin, wants to, actually, be there for, Batman and Alfred. But then, what Robin does is Robin challenges Batman. Robin gives Batman a reason to want to pass on his legacy, to revitalize the reason why he doesn't kill, the reason why he says, no, revenge isn't the answer, because Chris O'Donnell's Robin wants to get revenge on Two-Face. And he's like, no, that is not the answer. And we get the classic, Batman, no kill policy thing in there. And, he basically gets, he gets helped out because he gets to teach a lesson to, a young kid that he can finally, at one day when he retires, he can actually give everything to this kid and know that it's going to be left in good hands. Chris O'Donnell's Robin actually learns how to fly in order to save Batman's life in this movie. He actually pulls him out and gives him another shot to go and actually save Gotham. And that's what Robin does. He will always be there. He always has Batman's back. And, with the other choices, Superman he's more of a lead in his movie. I don't understand the, supporting role thing to it. And actually, I feel like Batman's more so supporting Superman in that movie. With the other choice, Lucius Fox is an employee. You stop paying him, he's not going to be, doing anything for you. I think he helps way more in The Dark Knight when he actually runs the damn company.
And time.
Okay.
All right. So I want to.
Henry with 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got common sense. We know who's next. All right, so I want to start off by the Lucius Fox saying him being an employee. Guess what? Literally within the movie, he was threatened to be fired, and he actually technically was fired, and he still helped Bruce Wayne and Batman. So that is not an issue. He's a real one. He's got your back. I want to repeat what Chad said about Superman. He's a support. He's not a supporting character. He's a main character, and even if he is a side character, he's more of a villain than help. Literally, it's called BVS, Batman versus Superman, because they're fighting for 90% of the movie. Sure, they fight it out in the third act, but guess what? When it comes to actual helpful acts, it's Wonder Woman that is actually more helpful than Superman within that scene. So Superman and Batman don't have any helpful moments back and forth. Guess what? Robin, sure, Robin is a really great supporting character in Batman 66, not in Batman Forever. Everything in Batman Forever, you got a quote unquote a beginner storyline. He's really building him up as Dick Grayson, not as Robin. So he doesn't really lead into that. Like Madi said, more in Batman and Robin. Unfortunately, he's more helpful in terms of plot and helping wise. Lucius Fox, like I said, without Lucius Fox in this movie, you would not have the entire Dark Knight trilogy. Which I said, this is a single movie, but I'm leading in. It's more important because it starts off in this first one. But you wouldn't have all that stuff. He leads them up with the tumbler. It has the scene with everything with the bat flying stuff, and it also inherits what we see with this entire trilogy in this single movie of the realism. You say that Rachel Dawes is more helpful in terms of that. That's not the case. She's a love interest, and she gives inspiration to keep him alive. But in terms of being help to Batman, it doesn't have that. She's more of a help of Bruce Wayne, of have that angst and that anger and just kind of that reason to stay alive. But in terms of Batman, which is what the question is, that she's not a help. And Alfred he's just a butler. He's a friend. He's a father figure, but he's not helpful and supporting in that. Literally in the scene when we see the Batcave being assembled and starting up, that's literally Michael Caine is literally just watching and he's just helping. He's not actually he's not helping. He's not actually doing anything physical that sets up the Batcave. So he's just watching. So he doesn't even. He's not. That's not a factor. It's all Lucius Fox.
And there are words and records, I am sure, that are to be stricken or maybe not. But we will go to Madi with his closing 6D.
Strike Lucius Fox from Henry's record.
No, actually, more just Ox. Lucius Fox.
Strike everything that Henry just said in the last 90 seconds.
Madi, 6 seconds when you begin.
We strike everything that Henry says in general. Okay. Both of you guys are picking people who are helping Batman in a singular sense. Superman not only helps him fight Doomsday at the end, which does happen, so it does help in the physical sense, but he also helps him in a spiritual and mental sense. That's something that none of your characters do. Robin in Batman Forever is just kind of a sidekick that Bruce is teaching and helping up. He gets more help from that particular Robin in Batman and Robin. The Robin in Batman 66, as Henry said, is a more helpful character, as well as the one in Lego Batman is a much more helpful character in both senses as well. You guys are thinking of this in one point of view, where I'm thinking of it as an entire point of view. Also, the answer was already accepted as a supporting role, so either way, if you guys don't accept it as a supporting role, it still fits because the answer was accepted, so you can't be coming at me with no semantics like that. The other thing I want to say is neither of your characters have done anything for Batman intellectually. All it is they help him fight in some way. But that's not all who Batman is. Batman is
Sorry.
Oh, right. Sorry.
I don't know if I muted. I might have mismuted.
You might have been muted, but it's all good, man.
That's my bad, Mindy.
Nope.
And to Chad, 60 seconds when you start speaking.
Actually, I think Madi actually helps my argument here because, Batman and Superman and BVS really, all they do is fight like basically most of the movie. I don't think they help each other intellectually as much as Madi thinks. However, with Robin in Batman Forever, that's most of what Robin does. I mean, he does save his life, but also what Robin does, because look, you got to look at these two Batmans over here. They're very capable. They're building shit. They're, fighting MMA style, doing all this crazy shit. They would find out how to take care of themselves. My Batman is pampered. My Batman is getting sandwiches made from him, but by Alfred. My Batman is getting freaking like Nicole Kidman all over him. Okay. So my Batman is basically, pampered so much that he needs a challenge. And that's what Robin comes in to do, to show him why he's Batman in the first place and how he can rise above and be a great team.
Nicole Kidman can help me any day of the week.
Actuals.
All right.
Henry, with your final minute.
All right, so just to repeat, Batman 66 and Lego Batman is actually more the Robin characters are more helpful to Batman as a character, and Nicole Kidman is actually more helpful in the slob and knob department. So Robin and Batman Forever is actually holding him down because he's keeping him from getting that knob slobbed. Everything with Batman v Superman. Guess what? That movie, who really cares about that movie in general? The movie sucks. But the reason that you watch it is to watch them fight, not to work together. And guess what? The only thing that Superman actually helps Batman with is to remember his mother's name, Martha. That's all he helps him with. Lucius Fox helps Batman and Bruce Wayne of becoming Batman. He literally helps him become the character of Batman with his tech. And like I said, he's got his back. He's the person that knows the identity. He doesn't have that. And because he's actually fired, you don't have to worry about that. Oh, like it's bribery is all that stuff. He's a real one. Lucius Fox got his back. And like I said, he's got him with the tech, and it builds up in the future movies. But even in the singular movie of Batman Begins, it's everything that you need. It's the inception of that character, Batman. Lucius Fox, let's go.
Time. And judges, we will take some time to gather up our scorecards while Chad is being a fucking Chad. Oh, hey, buddy.
All right.
He's being a Griffin Chad.
All right, so we are going to start with Antonio, similar to last round. From 3, 2, 1, tell us who you pick in that order and why.
I hate that he did this with my favorite Batman movie, but I got to put Chad at third. Yeah.
Hold up. Your favorite
Batman Forever is your favorite Batman movie?
Look, we're not here to roast Ant-Man for what his fucking favorite Batman movie is.
I didn't say it's the best. I just said it's my favorite.
Let him get his judgment out the way.
I just wanted a clarification.
All right.
Yeah. So, yeah, just the fact that I think the whole point was that, I think God damn it, you guys made me lose my freaking train of thought. Someone made the point that he was better than Batman and Robin, and as sad as that is, that's actually true. So, yeah, that's why I had to just give it, I don't know, and also the fact that he was butthurt and had to leave the cave at the worst possible moment to where Batman got his ass kicked by Riddler and Two-Face, and then Chase got
don't bring as you're a new judge, so I'll give you credit. Don't anything that wasn't said in the argument,
right.
You can't use it.
Okay. Second, I give it to Mehdi. The one thing that stuck with me is that he called Superman a beacon of hope, and so that's why I agree with it. I still think that Martha's a negative thing, but that's why I just put you second. Henry, overwhelmingly, I had to put you up first because everything was positive. I don't see anything because Lucius was just really consistent as far as always just being supportive, and then he only gets even more supportive to Batman throughout the trilogy. But as far as a really great foundation for Batman Begins, and yes, I really do think that Lucius Fox is the most helpful. So
there you go. All right, moving over to Jay from 3, 2, 1. What's the order picking in, and what's the general thought on each?
The fact that we got the Lego Batman Robin and Batman 66 Robin brought up as being more helpful. I don't think Chad did a whole lot there to really defend against that. He brought in like some good points, but the fact of the matter is when you get told by both competitors and both of them bring it up and nobody really says anything about it, that like it's Robin that helps him more in Batman and Robin than he does in Batman Forever. That one right there really kind of hurts. Mehdi did something that I don't really see happen a whole lot, and that is take a giant swing. Mehdi took a giant swing by choosing Superman and then not saying anything about Superman for 2.5 rounds while everybody else just argued, but everybody brought it back after round 2 and just kind of hit a little bit harder. Also, had anybody brought up the fact that Superman doesn't actually kill anybody outside of a dream sequence, but does brand people with the bat symbol and then they end up getting murdered, would have been a fucking ending right there. I'm going to go with Henry, and it's mainly because Henry did exactly what I needed to see happen in this round, and it's explained why your character is helpful. Mehdi did a good job. Chad just chose the wrong movie, but Henry explained in a pretty good detail, even striking words, why we needed what the explanation was that we needed for why you're choosing that character. Even being fired, he still helps him. He fired back when they said, oh, well, if he got fired, he's just an employee. That one really kind of set it over. So I'm going to go with Henry on this one.
There you go. And Tato, from 3 to 1, who you picking in what order and why?
I'm going to very much echo Jay's sentiments. Chad at 3, he did good, but just the barbs that both Henry and Medee were able to send at him were too much to overcome. And then Medee at 2, for all the reasons, again, Jay stated, but Henry at 1 because you were able to Wing Chun both sides of the argument. It was beautiful.
There we go. All right, so now we have a score of Medee at 1, Henry at 1, and Chad, he's looking to get his point. But guess what? Luck's in your favor because now we're going into your question. Chad's strength was Wizarding World / Harry Potter. I don't remember the order, but the question is specifically Wizarding World. What is the best wizard battle inside a Wizarding or a Harry Potter film, Wizarding World film? You know what I mean? You know the drill. So Heineken's kicking in. All right, so with that said, I'm going to start 60 seconds. I'm going to start taking over the pacing, Potato, just because we're getting long in the tooth. So 60 seconds, 90 seconds when I start. All right, so when you think of a wizarding battle, you think of 3 things. You think of literally the logistics of what happens within the battle in terms of the spells and just the actual action. You think of who's involved, and you think the visuals because it's film. You want it to be visually stunning. So I went with within the Goblet of Fire, the wizarding battle between Harry and Voldemort. And the reason I chose this is because literally it's Harry and Voldemort. It's their first battle. We have another one, but I know my opponents might bring up and try and knock me and say that we have another one. That one's better because it's more impactful story-wise, but I disagree. The reason that this one is more important because Harry is not quite there yet, but also Voldemort is not quite there yet. It's a little more on even ground, and it's because of the build-up of what we're doing. It's kind of the turning point in the entire series. It's literally the reason of what we're getting into the final quote-unquote Voldemort storyline of the second half of this series. Harry and Voldemort go at it because Voldemort's got beef with him. I can touch you now. It's one of the most iconic lines in the entire series. But after we get to that point, the actual battle, you have the visuals that you want to see with the red and the green and all that stuff. But you have also the visuals of both Lily and James Potter, but also Cedric Diggory, who just passed away. The fact that they're able to come back as Force Ghosts, there's no other better way to word that within the Harry Potter series. Don't knock me for it. But they come back, so it has that emotion behind it, but it also has the action behind it, the heart behind it. Because Harry literally just watched a really good friend of his just pass away because of Voldemort. Well, technically because of Wormtail, but Voldemort was the reason. And it's one of those where Harry was able to still compose himself. It's kind of that final turning point of him becoming a man that we're going to see in the entire Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince, and Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2 because it started in Goblet of Fire. And it's the first fight. It's the first actual fight in physical form that we see of Voldemort and Harry. And that is the most iconic thing in the entire franchise because it is exactly what we've been leading up to this point. And it even exceeds the fact that we see them fight again in full form in Deathly Hallows Part 2 because at that point, we already know Harry's going to win. It's a climax. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in this battle. This is the Empire Strikes Back of the wizarding battles because it's Harry versus Voldemort, but we don't know who's going to win. Voldemort technically kicks his ass, and Harry he needed literally the help of the Force Ghost, but that there's an emotional aspect to it. So technically, yeah, Tato, are you timing? And technically,
no, you said you were taking over.
I was taking over just the toasting part. All right, time.
Yeah, I'm gonna call time. I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give everybody about an extra 10 seconds there.
Yeah.
That's on me. I should have called that. Real quick before the next person starts, I am going to add another me in here. It's just so I can run to the bathroom real fast, but still hear the arguments. So don't add it. Just let him chill in the background. I can still hear everything. Yeah. I just want to give you a heads up.
All right, Medee. Tato, you're still doing the times, but I'm just doing the talking. Medee, 90 seconds when you begin.
Are we good on Jay's side? Like,
he can hear you. Like he said, it's in the background. Yeah, I got this.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't talking out my ass. So I went with something that's a little bit less bombastic and a little bit less flashy than my opponents did. I went with McGonagall versus Snape in Deathly Hallows Part 2. It's a very short battle. It doesn't take very long. There's not a lot that happens, but it doesn't have to be for it to be the best battle or the best wizard battle in a film. What this battle does is it does a couple things subtly, and it does a lot of things a little bit more intriguingly. It comes right after Snape is standing at the top of the hall, and he calls out Harry, and then Harry says, "How dare you stand where he stood?" Has that whole speech, and then calls him out, and he's ready to fight Snape when McGonagall steps in as a protector of this, who she still sees as a child, in front of him against Snape. Snape is also backed by 2 Death Eaters, both of whom end up dying or getting knocked out or whatever happens to them in the fight because Snape ends up deflecting it. Kind of simmering in that he's still the double agent, but not so obviously that people would notice. It's one of those really subtle things that you don't notice until you watch it again and again and again, that you see that Snape actually deflects the attacks that he has coming at him to the 2 behind him. And you also notice that Snape doesn't actually send an attack forward against McGonagall. He's always on the defense because he doesn't want to do it. It's one of those like really subtle things, and it's what makes it so brilliant is that you're seeing the subtleness, but you're also seeing McGonagall going, you know what, screw this, I'm stepping in, I can't be one-sided anymore. And it's the start of the Battle of Hogwarts that ends up spanning the rest of the next
And
35
time.
minutes of the film.
And I believe Chad is next.
60 seconds or 90 seconds when you begin.
Absolutely. The best Wizarding Worlds battle comes in at the end, the very end of Order of the Phoenix, and it is the battle of Dumbledore and Harry versus Voldemort. In this battle, it takes place right after the death of Sirius Black, where Harry is emotionally destroyed, devastated. Dumbledore and Voldemort fight, and it is epic. It's the fight that you've been waiting for. It shows the height of what wizards can do when they battle. You don't get any battles nearly as epic. Having a huge fire dragon, a giant water ball, shockwave that shatters glass all around, and then that glass being turned into like dust or sand or whatever. It's the ultimate battle between good and evil. If you take that alone, it's still the best battle in the Wizarding world, but you also, at the very end of that, you get the possession of Harry Potter. This is the turning point. This is when Harry realizes he has the power to defeat Voldemort. You get the brilliant line of, "It isn't how you are alike, it's how you are not." Harry realizes, as said at the end of the film, he has something that Voldemort will never have, something
30.
to fight for. Voldemort has a need to control everything, every person, his life and his death. Harry refuses to give him control. Harry realizes that he pities Voldemort. Brilliant acting from Daniel Radcliffe, the first in the series of brilliant acting from Daniel Radcliffe. This is when he transitions from child actor to adult actor, and it is brilliant.
And time.
All right, 2 minutes when I begin speaking. Time by Tato. All right, so I'm going to start off with Medi's scene. He already started off in saying it's short and sweet, and it doesn't really have that much epicness, and that's actually a knock to it. Like you took a swing, and I respected that you tried, but you don't really have anything visually speaking, but you don't have anything emotionally. There's really not that true rivalry or like anything that you want to see from McGonagall and Snape. Nothing that within this entire franchise you're like, oh, I want to see Snape and McGonagall go at it, especially in like a wizarding battle where they potentially could kill each other or maim each other. You definitely don't want to see that. So when you do see it, it's not as visually striking. So at least you don't have that entertainment level, and you don't really have that emotional impact. And you say it's like a good moment for McGonagall. She has a better moment when she sets up the wall for around Hogwarts. That's more impactful for McGonagall as a character, but unfortunately that's not part of a battle. So it kind of negates the fact that your highlight of McGonagall's character is within that. The scene with Dumbledore and Voldemort, I want to start off by saying is when we're thinking of battles, you're thinking of like the wands and the stuff. So everything with the Harry stuff, if you want to use that as your argument, that's fine, but as like an emotional aspect, but it really doesn't tie into Dumbledore versus Voldemort, which is the actual wand back and forth. And everything that you get from Voldemort, who is arguably the greatest wizard of all time, at least on the evil side, the only thing that he truly does within that battle is defend himself and use like a fire spell. Other than that, Dumbledore, he's able to use 2 to 1, and at that point, Voldemort, he's kind of a bitch. He just backs out at the end because he's scared. So at
30.
no point do you really feel Voldemort as a threat. In mine, though, Voldemort is literally about to beat Harry. He literally is about to win, and that's when he just got revived. He literally just got his first full form body, and he almost beat Harry. Harry. And that is a fact. And we already know that Harry is the chosen one. Harry is literally arguably one of the best wizards of all time at this point, and he's only 14 in this movie. It's one of those things where Voldemort already almost beat Harry, but Harry needed the help of the Force.
Time.
So at least you get the emotion behind it. Sorry. I didn't know you were about to break me off. Start doing fives, like just to be nice, everyone. Start doing like 5. You know what I mean? Just so no one.
I said 10, but
I know, but yes, just do the 5s at that point, so everyone can at least visually see it. Especially as, for me, the beers are kicking in. I'm not listening.
Too loud, too
All right,
soft.
we are going to jump to Madi. 2 minutes when you begin speaking.
Henry, I know you're drunk because you said the word literally about 17 times in that 2 minutes. I don't want to bring it up, but here we are.
I'm gonna literally
here's the thing.
Hey, let's go, guy.
Both of you guys' wizard battles are great visually. They're both very stunning CGI. They're, bombastic. They're Christmas tree lights, spectacular, all over the screen, and you can't help but look at it. I'm going to say this, Henry. The fact that you don't think that McGonagall and Snape have that emotion, they've been working together as teachers and allies for, I'm not entirely sure how long, but it's been a few decades at least of both of these guys working together. McGonagall taught Snape as a student. If you're a fan of the stories, you know this. You know that there's the emotional backstory. And for McGonagall to say, you know what, this is enough, and to finally step forward and say, I am not having one of my former students and co-workers attack one of my students who is currently one of my students. It's her taking a stance, and it's the beginning of the war. Saying it's her most badass moment coming up when she does the shield thing, that's just relegation. That's not saying that anything about the fight. It's just saying that, oh, she does something with magic later. McGonagall's character was always one who was trying to keep order and trying to keep the rule. And when Snape finally steps over the line in her eyes of about to attack a student, she comes in to defend. She comes in to defend and then ends up attacking, and Snape has to go on the defense while also keeping his cover. It's a beautifully done fight with only about a minute, and the emotion behind it doesn't just come from those two characters having to deal with each other. It also comes from Harry seeing that his teacher that he's admired but also been kind of terrified of is on his side as well. He has the huge moment, as Chad was talking about, as an adult actor, saying, you dare stand where he stood, tell them what you did. This moment has everything except for the big bombastic CGI, and that's not necessarily what's going to make the best wizard battle. The best wizard battle is going to be where you see the effects of everything coming together. Henry, yours, it's the second best Harry Voldemort fight. Let's be real. It's of the two that they have, there's a better one, and you didn't pick it.
And time. And we will move on to Chad. 2 minutes when you start.
Yeah, I want to lead off with basically mimicking what Madi just said, that, there is a better, with the whole red versus green wand fight with the liquidy, spells shooting everywhere. There's a better one later in Deathly Hallows Part 2, and that is probably the better one of the Deathly Hallows Part 2 as well, especially with them jumping off of the tower and commingling and stuff like that. Just there's a lot of great stuff in that one. And when you talk about the battle between McGonagall and Snape, honestly, the emotions, you talk about McGonagall going up and actually defending everybody against Snape. She should have done that a long time ago. Let's be real here with McGonagall. She basically was an enabler for so long, just turning the eye. She turns this like one time. Yeah, it's too late there, McGonagall. I agree with Henry. I think the Pierre locomotor, totem locomotor, is definitely a much greater, moment for her. It's definitely not that one, and it's all undercut later when you realize that Snape is actually a good guy. You go, wait, they fought? That was kind of weird. I do think that the emotions in the end scene of Goblet of Fire is kind of undercut too later in the film, when you get that ridiculous Harry Potter, fake crying over Cedric Diggory at the very end. I go, oh, he's not even trying. I get more from Amos Diggory there. But with my battle, holy shit. You get that part where Harry is possessed. Dude is like rolling on the ground, writhing. He just lost his godfather, the only father he ever knew. And then he has, you talk about Dumbledore lying over and being a bitch. Dumbledore has no choice. Voldemort is possessing him. Voldemort is taking him over. I'll get more later.
Alrighty, moving on to our closing arguments. Henry, 1 minute when you begin.
I forgot I was muted. I was literally trying to like Tato, shut the fuck up. All right, so I want to just start off by saying the question says best wizard battle. So when you think of wizard battle, let's be real. You're thinking of wands because guess what? Two teachers can talk. Two teachers talked in fist fight, and that movie sucked. No one cares about two teachers talking it out and fighting it out. When you think of two characters within your movie, or the Phoenix, you think of the two characters actually doing the wizard battle. Everything that you're talking about, Harry, he's in it. That's fine. But when you think of a wizard battle, you think of the wands and the spells and stuff. So I'm kind of taking all that emotion about it. At least with mine in the battle within Harry and Voldemort, it's a wizard battle of wands, but you're also using the wizard battle, which is the Force Ghost, which again, I don't have a better word for it, of Lily and James and the emotion behind it, but also Cedric Diggory. You said fake crying and stuff. At that point, he's built up so much of developing friendship. They started to work together and give each other hints. Cedric literally gave him the hints of putting the egg underwater. So it's not fake crying. He really had his back, and they said, hey, let's do this together. They went and literally grabbed the Triwizard together. You got to do it a lot better, like in the 5. Like, put it in screen, yeah. Oh, I thought you said 10. I thought you said time.
I said 10. I'm sorry.
I thought you said time. Go ahead. Fucking Tato, man.
Do you want your last 10 seconds? Medee,
right. I'm gonna go ahead and take over calling that time.
There we go.
I'm gonna go ahead and do that.
I literally
no, you're good. No, you've
okay.
You've been doing a good job, buddy. Don't worry about
it. You're a good judge.
It's not you. Henry's just a little drunk now.
It's not you. Henry's just in his fucking feelings about it. I got this, baby. Don't worry about it.
All right.
But also don't knock me on judging. I want your fucking notes.
Now I'm knocking him on judging though, because I have to.
All right, Medee, 60 seconds when you begin.
Henry, I don't think you realized what Cedric and Harry's relationship was because they were still competitors. They weren't necessarily friends. They were just kind of from the same school. They knew each other. Chad, I want to talk about yours a little bit. Yours, other than the amazing CGI that they do, I don't feel anything during the actual battle. I feel it all after the battle is done. That's where you kind of lose me on it. Just because it's a lot of great CGI against each other doesn't make it a better battle. It's just Dumbledore and Voldemort don't have any like emotional attachment to each other or anything that makes it more difficult. It's just, they're fighting. They're the two tops, but it shows that they're the two tops, but there's nothing else sub-layer. Everything else that you were talking about is the possession afterwards, which doesn't really come into the wizard battle. McGonagall and Snape, you can't compare that to Fist Fight, which is a completely different movie. These two have known each other and cared about each other, and they have to go against each other while also having that sub-layer of Snape being a
time
double agent, rather.
Strike double agent, rather, from the record.
I said secret agent, so I guess I'm technically still right.
Strike.
All right.
Strike.
Chad,
I said secret agent.
Begin speaking.
I'm just.
If you want to segment just the wand part, that part is still excellent, and that part has all the emotion you need. I mean, Dumbledore has been teaching freaking Tom Riddle for as long as he's known, and he became one of his biggest failures. So of course there's emotion there. And then the Harry Potter possession part is also a part of that battle, and you get some of the best emotion you've ever seen in that entire franchise. You know, with the McGonagall and Snape thing, yeah, it's over so quick, and it's undercut later in the film. McGonagall should have stood up to him way earlier. And then when you look at Henry's battle, this is not a battle. This is a sucker punch. He basically orchestrated this whole thing under Harry, and Harry is surprised. Harry has to defend himself at the last second, and he's only helped by his parents, and then he has to flee. That's not a battle. It's a true battle in Deathly Hallows Part 2. My battle is the best battle because it's the biggest.
One time.
It has emotion.
All right, so question 3 is off. It's a Wizarding World. It's going to be a battle, and no pun intended. So with that said, we're going to start with Jay. Yikes.
This isn't going to be a part of the argument, but can we talk about how Henry thought that "I Can Touch You" now was an iconic line because it was badass and not because it was a pedophilic line?
Whoa!
Points!
Like, who was you, my guy? I got you. All right. So with that said, Jay, from 3 to 1, what's your order and why are you picking them?
Okay. 3. Henry, you got pretty fucking mollywopped in that entire thing, bro. Don't roll your eyes, Doug. Look here.
30 seconds or less. 3 to 1. Let's go.
No, get fucked. Madi, you did a pretty good job. I'm not gonna lie. The double agent thing, I'm not gonna hold against you. I don't like the fact that Henry tried to flavor the fact that a battle only has to take place with wands. I think invading Harry's mind was a very calculated move by Voldemort, and Chad chose the right argument. He maneuvered his way through it incredibly well and was still very tactful when it came to explaining why his was the best. It's not the shortest, but it's also not the longest. He just did an incredible job putting forth what he needed to for this argument.
All right, Tato, from 3 to 1, give us your order and why you're picking them.
I do have Hen at 3. It has nothing to do with being kicked off the table. Wow.
All right, 2 and 1. Let's go.
Madi at 2 and Chad at 1. Chad was able to throw barbs in every direction while explaining why his choice was correct as well.
All right, Antonio, what's your girl say in order and why?
It's funny because she's going to bed. So far, I have Madi at 3. Again, just the fact that it was too short. And yeah, maybe I just need the bombastic stuff, but yeah, and I didn't care about there's no rivalry. I just didn't really care about it that much, and too short of a battle to think about all the history behind it. But whatever. Then Chad got me at 2nd. Yeah, I never thought about the acting aspect, but that was a good point. The fact that it was still epic, yeah, still you can never deny it's an epic fight. But yeah, Henry won me over with. I'm not sure if he did this on purpose because he knew I was judging, but calling it the Empire Strikes Back of Harry Potter.
It's called pandering, sir.
Yeah, it's not.
It's called pandering.
He actually made me think about it a different way because it's like, yeah, Luke sort of fighting Vader when he's not particularly ready yet, and I was like, oh my god, it's just a good point. And also the emotionality of the ghost and the visuals and even the music in that scene. Yeah, everything won me over, man. So,
there you go. I was expecting to get 2-2-2s on that because Chad has the right answer, but the fact that I got
Chad does have the right answer.
Yeah, but the fact that I got 2 3-point third place votes, I'm really mad about that. I'd be okay with 3 2s, but
I'm not gonna lie. Each one of these has an argument, but the fake cry from Harry, the Amos. My son is so much.
Nothing to do with the battle, you fuck.
Well, no, I know, but he did bring it up. Also, Madi, he at that point in time when Snape battled McGonagall, teacher for 17 years at Hogwarts.
Jay,
17.
all right,
Okay,
that's
that's
fine. All right,
quick fact check.
There you go.
I didn't know the math on the age.
So now this is where it's going to get interesting.
Shit.
We are 1-1-1 with 2 quote unquote random questions left. Austin Peshal, our writer, chose his own questions. So now at this point, the first 2 is going to move on to the speed round, and the second 2 is going to follow them. So and then we're going to go back in the order. So it's going to go, Chad, Madi, Henry. So with that said, question 4. Tato is going to be happy about this one. What is the best stoner movie of the 2000? Chad, in 90 seconds, give us your answer and whatever.
Y'all better bring it for this question, by the way.
Jay doesn't know nothing about it, so this is going to be really interesting.
All right. What is the best stoner movie of the 2000s? You got a lot of different choices, a lot of some decent ones, some not so great ones, but I chose one that I absolutely love, and it is a cult classic. It is Wet Hot American Summer, filled with many famous faces like Bradley Cooper, Amy Poehler, Elizabeth Banks, and Paul Rudd. These people basically got their starts with this film, and now they're some of the most famous people you've ever seen. This movie is balls to the wall hilarious. It is unapologetically silly as hell, and it takes all of the chances to do a funny bit. It's the perfect stoner movie to watch because all of the silly humor is elevated when you have what I like to call silly brain or silliness on the brain. I always have silly brain, so I love this
30 seconds.
movie. People adore this movie so much so they brought it back with some Netflix TV shows. Despite being super silly, it's also just a really feel-good time, a day in the life kind of movie about people on the last day of camp. There are so many good
10.
jokes, but I won't name the few. The spirit of the movie is the reminder of films like
5,
Dazed and Confused and Do the
4,
Right Thing.
3,
And this is just,
2,
you fall in love with the
1.
characters in this camp. It's hilarious.
Time.
All right, so I adjusted. I remembered that I go second on this one, then Medi's third, because he based on the order of the first question. All right, 90 seconds when I begin speaking. All right, so when you think of stoner movies of the 2000s, you think of movies that involve marijuana, and my movie literally is a strand of marijuana in Pineapple Express. When you think of marijuana, you think of Pineapple Express. Not only when you think of stoner movies, when you just think of marijuana at this point. Hey, I'm high as shit. Let's watch Pineapple Express. Obviously, I don't want to go into too much about it because of politics or whatever. But James Franco and Seth Rogen, they're fantastic in this movie. You literally think of James Franco Saul as a drug dealer, and you think of Seth Rogen's character as a guy who buys weed. It's one of those movies where not only is marijuana the main focus of the storyline, but it's also one of those where it's like not only
30
Mm.
seconds.
when I'm high, I want to watch it, but also it's a lot of fun. And Todd Phillips as the director of this movie, or I'll fact check on the next one, but David Gordon Green. It's one of those where it's well directed, it's well made, and it's one of those movies where it's well acted, but it's also hilarious and the storyline's great. But the marijuana and the stoner aspect of this movie is so
10.
critical to it, but it's also so awesome. You know what I mean? The epic lines of like, oh my God, what do you mean the car is dead? Because they
4,
got so stoned and they
3,
left the car on and they died.
2,
And then they literally are on the run because of marijuana.
1. Pens down. Time.
Hands down.
I knew it would get you to stop talking. That's why I said it.
It worked. My guy. All right. Madi, 90 seconds when you start. Begin.
Hands down gave me flashbacks to my midterms, but all right. I picked Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. I don't think that there has been another stoner movie that so exemplifies the feeling of being high as this movie. The concept is basically this: these two roommates and best friends get really high, and they decide, I want to go to White Castle to deal with these munchies, which for anyone who's been high knows is like the greatest craving that you can have ever. John Cho and Cal Penn both play their roles phenomenally well. Both of them have their own character backstories, but also you realize that they're not just like
30
random
seconds.
stoners. They're regular people that just happen to be stoned at this time. It also has a phenomenal supporting cast. Neil Patrick Harris is iconic in this role as Neil Patrick Harris, or like a spoof of himself, rather. Ryan Reynolds shows up. There's a lot of brilliant hijinks that come about in this film that have had people laughing for almost 20 years
10.
now. And the fact that it did also get a sequel and then also like
5,
a Christmas special on the end as well
4,
also shows how much people love this movie as well.
2. Time.
And now we're going to jump over to Chad. 2 minutes to rebut both your movie and our other two movies when you've been speaking.
Exactly. Well, I'll start with Pineapple Express because Henry left off when he said they are on the run because of marijuana. And I think that's actually a pretty big negative to his movie as a stoner movie, because they start the movie very, very positive with like, oh, pot is great. I hope pot gets legal. But then they have some weird, like, unaddressed, unaccomplished plot line where Dale just basically says, oh, I think we're all in this mess because we got high. And I'm like, is this movie pro weed or is it anti weed? Like, I don't understand. Like, why would a great stoner movie be actually negative about weed? And they never really address it. They don't get high at the end. They don't try to, actually address that again. There's also a really big, he's dating a high school girl. And while at one point he kind of thinks maybe this might not be the right thing to do, he still
60
goes
seconds.
on to, basically court her. And I think that's just really kind of messed up. Also the fact that James Franco is kind of a problematic figure in real life, kind of as a little bit of a turnoff, otherwise, I think it's a fine movie. With Harold and Kumar, This movie doesn't really hold up. If you can just basically get your munchies out by doing DoorDash, I don't really think this movie is something that you're going to relate to. And there's also a big sequence
30
where
seconds.
Kumar, dates and marries this bag of weed, and then he basically does like domestic abuse, and they try to make domestic abuse funny, and he slaps the bag of weed, calls it a bitch. I don't think any of that is funny. I don't think people of today are going to really enjoy that movie. My movie has some of the
10
best
seconds.
jokes ever. It has the misfit baseball joke, has the going to town joke, it
5,
has the talking to a can
4,
of vegetables joke,
3,
can't find the phone
2,
joke, and it is just balls to
1,
the wall
time.
that you love.
Strike walls to the silly fun. So
2
Chad's
minutes when I begin speaking.
Chad's last word is balls.
2 minutes when I begin speaking. All right, so I want to start off by saying it's a logistical thing, but you never know when the judges, obviously David Gordon Green, I'm drunk. That's the director. Get over it. All right, so with that said, so I want to start off with Harold Kumar Go to White House. It's one of those things where, guess what? If you're really stoned, you're not traveling because A, I'm not trusting my driving as someone who's stoned, but also B, I don't have the patience at that point. I want my snacks and I want them now. And guess what? In Pineapple Express, we get snacks all the time. In the thing within his house, he gets his snacks. When he's visiting the apartment, James Franco's character, he gets his snacks. But also, even when they're on the run from the cops, they're like, hey, let's go get some snacks. They acknowledge the fact that we need to we're high and we want to eat our snacks the entire time. But also, you have multiple drug dealers in this entire movie. You have Ted, who's the main drug dealer. You have Red, who's the side dealer. You have Saul, who's a drug dealer. But also, the time when they need some money, they're going to sell drugs to the kids. It's one of those things. Guess what? It's a stoner comedy. It's not going to hold up regardless of what you're going to go for. So I don't mind that. Wet Hot American Summer is not a weed movie. If they even do any type of marijuana in the entire movie, it's just a little bit. That movie sucks. That is definitely the worst movie of the three of us. But also, it's more of an alcohol movie because guess what? When you're hanging out with your friends at the campground, all stuff, you're drinking. You're not worried about smoking because you just want to get drunk and jump in the ocean. If you're high, you don't want to jump in the lake because you're gonna drown. If you're drunk, you're gonna have some fun. You're gonna get on some necks and you're gonna you're gonna fucking fight, whatever that's called. Harold and Kumar Go to White House. One of those movies that you said that. Oh yeah, we have 2 sequels. Guess what? They're cheap to make.
30
they
seconds.
Suck. The director's not great. David Gordon Green is an acclaimed director at this point because he did a fantastic job. They literally have a bit, and this is the end, that we want a sequel because of how fantastic and how iconic this movie is. Years later, no one's talking about either of yours outside of your television series and Wet Hot American Summer, which at that point, it's only because of the stars.
Are you ceding the rest of your time?
You said 10 seconds or 30?
30.
Oh, I'm sorry. So Pineapple Express, it's one of those where it's literally marijuana is the focus of the movie, but it's also a well-made movie. And when you think of a movie in general, let alone a stoner movie, you think of Pineapple Express. You think of Dale, you think of Saul, you think of Red, you think of Ted, and you think of Pineapple Express, especially when it comes to marijuana.
Strike marijuana.
No, just
from the record.
2 minutes when you begin speaking.
Wet Hot American Summer hurt you or something, Henry? God damn.
That fucking movie. You'll see my movie Battleground when it comes up.
Okay, here's the thing about both of your movies. Pineapple Express, I think Chad said it best. The movie's kind of all over the place on whether it's pro-weed or against weed. It also has James Franco, who's problematic, whether he's sober or high, as well as a few other people in that movie who are kind of problematic. I don't want to go back to that one. And how you said that, oh yeah, we have DoorDash now. We didn't in 2004, so obviously they can't just order DoorDash. If this movie was made now, yeah, it would be 10 minutes long. That's it. But it wasn't. It was made for the time, and it fits in with the time, and people who go back to that time can really go into that era and say, all right, yeah, they didn't have food delivery. This is how they had to do it. None of the things that they do in this movie are smart. But when you're high, what is smart? What are you doing that's so intelligent? It fits the role of what it is in the film. Them driving while high is not something you're supposed to do, but they're high. It makes sense in the realm of the film. Wet Hot American Summer is a fun film, but I agree, it's not really a stoner film. It's more just like a fun, raunchy, cult classic movie that has a couple stars in it that you go back and be like, holy crap, this was them before they were famous.
60 seconds.
And to continue on about to Wet Hot American Summer, yeah, I like the movie and the TV series, but it's not a stoner film. It more fits in with, drinking or just kind of hanging out or putting something on in the background that you just kind of have a laugh at as you're walking along and watching it. Nothing about it screams stoner film. Pineapple Express it's problematic in a lot of parts, and it's very mixed. I think Harold and Kumar is the only one of these films that is a stoner film, and it's a stoner film that people actually enjoy watching. It might not be smart or intelligent cinema, but it is the best stoner film, and it fits into that realm so well that it exemplifies what a stoner film is. You say 30 or 10?
30.
Okay. The other thing about the sequels, yeah, it has sequels, and maybe they're not good or maybe they're cheap, but it doesn't matter. People love the first one enough for it to get to that
10.
where it has the sequels. And being locked up in Guantanamo Bay has a lot of great moments in it as
5,
well. It doesn't drop in
4,
quality. It just kind of staggers,
3,
and it's still a fun
2,
time watch.
1. So time.
All right. So now we're gonna go on to the closing arguments. We're gonna start with Chad. 60 seconds when you begin speaking.
Wet Hot American Summer, like I said, is a cult classic. It actually, I think this is a great stoner movie because it is elevated when you're stoned, because it is so silly. It's so balls to the wall hilarious. And it also actually exemplifies that, it mirrors that time of just being a kid, having fun, going to camp in the 70s, nonetheless, and it's
30.
everything with it. It just has that fun, chill camp vibe, with, everything else with Harold and Kumar. It's just like, it doesn't hold up. And the whole Neil Patrick Harris thing, it's so dated now because, back then it was surprising because he was Doogie Howser, but now he's not Doogie Howser anymore. Now it's like you watch
10.
it, you go, wait, why is this guy in this movie? Basically, my
5,
movie is just
4,
one of the most fun times you
3,
can watch. And it came
2,
first, so it started the
1,
standard of comedy in
time.
the 2000s.
All right.
Strike thousands
60
from
seconds
Chad's
when I
record.
begin speaking. All right, so I'm gonna start with Wet Hot American Summer. Obviously, semantics, not really a stoner movie. That is what it is. I accept that's fine. But the fact it's not really a great movie. When you think of these three movies, it's the least that you want to watch. If anything, when you're watching the movie, you feel stoned, not because it's about being high, it's just because it's so boring. You just feel standstill. Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. It's one of those movies where there's nothing about it that stands out in terms of just generally speaking, outside of just Harold and Kumar as characters. Because it's buddy comedy, sure, you're gonna remember the two. But the most memorable thing, you keep mentioning Neil Patrick Harris, but guess what? He does mushrooms in the movie. He doesn't actually do marijuana. So the stoner aspect doesn't really have
30
that weight to it.
seconds.
In Pineapple Express, obviously you guys are desperate and you guys keep wanting to throw the thing of James Franco and all this other stuff. But guess what? Pineapple Express is the only one of this movie. I'm only going to say it once because I don't want to hammer on it, but statistics, it's the only one that made over 100 million. Your guys has made less than 30 million because guess what? It's no one's going back to watch it. Mine's more rewatchable. Mine's more quotable. Mine's more memorable.
10.
Mine has a better director. Mine has better leads. It's marijuana from beginning to end. You want to do the
5,
problematic stuff, the age stuff, that's fine. Guess what? Shit happens in movies, but it mentions it in the entire movie, and that my movie is the
time.
60 seconds, Madi, when you begin speaking.
Saying Neil Patrick Harris does mushrooms in the movie so it doesn't fit into the stoner movie category is a ridiculous notion because Harold and Kumar are on so much weed that the whole movie takes place. The whole reason the movie happens is because they're high. And for Pineapple Express, yeah, sure, it made money because it has Seth Rogen and James Franco in the leads, and they can get the kind of financing to make a movie that does make that much money. They were big comedic stars. Cal Penn and John Cho were not known actors, so the budget of how much they brought in at the box office, it doesn't equate to how good.
30 seconds.
The idea of a stoner film is exemplified in Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. It's about two buddies who are high in their apartment, want to get food, and go on an adventure to try and get the food. Whether the events of the film happen the way they do or not is up to the viewer. It's not a movie that you could make today,
10.
but most movies aren't. There's a lot of movies that don't work if you watch them today or
5,
film them today. It worked for the time, and it fit in for the time, and it was a
3,
perfect film for the
2,
time for anyone who was a stoner.
1, time.
All right. So with that said, the main round is done. We're gonna start with Jake Tato. Let's start wrapping up these conclusions a little bit. Still legitimately have your reasons why, but from 3 to 1, what's your order and why, Tato?
Chad at 3. Both Madi and Henry were able to attack the not stoner movie aspect, and that did you in on that. Henry at 2, because Madi was able to counter the mushrooms and money argument, and Madi at 1 for that purpose.
All right, Antonio, from 3 to 1, what's your order and why are you picking them?
You're muted, bro.
You're
Yeah,
muted, bruv.
Sorry, well, I fucked up. I had Chad at 3 because I mean at the beginning he kind of had me, but then just kept on going down, and I think Henry absolutely destroyed American Summer. So then yeah, that was pretty much solidified. And Medea, I was close, but I had Medea at 2. Made some very good points, with the Munchies argument, Neil Patrick Harris, and the franchise argument. But Henry got me to number 1, just because again, the title itself is weed. And you're right. Even though I haven't seen both movies in a while, White Castle and Pineapple Express, the fact that Henry said that just synonymous with weed is what got me, and he kept that theme going with each rebuttal. So Henry got it number 1 for me.
All right, and last but not least, Jay, from 3 to 1, what's your order and why you say them?
Chat at 3. Don't take this the wrong way, buddy. You had a strong argument last round, but they kind of did just fucking bully you into that third place position, basically stating that your movie isn't necessarily a stoner movie. I wish somebody would have said just because your movie takes place in like 1980 doesn't mean that your movie's a stoner movie because it takes place in an era where stoner movies happen. I'm gonna go with Medea at second. This was flippy floppy. Therefore, a real quick second. But the fact that nobody brought up the fact that like Henry's movie starts with Dale Seth Rogen's character smoking a fucking joint while driving down the 405, talking about, oh, I like my movies where nobody drives and smokes weed. That was kind of a strong argument. Nobody called him out on that one. And it was one of the big things, and it was a detriment to Medea's argument. It is a very quotable movie. I have to go with Henry on this one.
Technically, his movie starts with Bill Hader in a military bunker, but yes.
I'm hammered. I didn't get to mention that. So with that said, though, I'm going to get that point. So we're going to go into the final question. It's going to be 1v1.
I have one thing to say.
Let's hear it.
You all fucked up. How high takes it came out in 2001, you fucking cucks.
It's a trash movie, though. So
no, it's not.
What about Up in Smoke? Up in Smoke?
All right, it's not the point. All right. No, that's not the 2000s. What is wrong with you?
Sorry, no.
It's what it says on screen. All right. So anyway, so we're going into the final question. Now we're going to start getting to the point where things are going to get a little bit shorter because now there's only going to be 2 from now on. So it's going to be Medea versus Chad, and at this point, Medea is up, so I'm going to let him choose to go second. I'm assuming, right? You want to end?
Yeah.
All right. So Chad, you're going to go first. The question is randomly from Austin Pez Howell. What is the most disappointing Steven Spielberg movie?
Well, there's so many to choose from. Holy fuck.
All right, so it's 1-1 right now. Winner of this question meets Henry Confidential in the speed round. So 90 seconds. Chad, when you begin speaking.
I'm not sure if there are so many to choose from because Steven Spielberg's known to be one of the greatest directors ever made. Ever to direct films.
Anyway, he did get made.
Hey, this is my
shut
time.
Up.
This is my time. The most disappointing Steven Spielberg film is definitely Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the Indiana Jones variety. Even if you like that movie, there are still way more people who hate that movie. Reason being is that Indy was a phenomenon, a character people loved. The new Indiana Jones was a film people did not recognize. All the poor choices like the CGI gophers, the CGI vine swinging, Shia LaBeouf, the fridge and the nuclear explosion, the aliens at the end. All the previous Indy films were gritty, well shot. Their clothes got dirty and ripped. It always felt like Indy was going to get killed until he finds a way out in the nick of time. There was no suspense in this movie. It's an okay adventure film, but it is a piss poor Indiana Jones film, and fans knew it from day one. This film is so hated, people refuse to admit its existence. People say, no, there's only 3 Indiana Jones movies, right? They like to pretend there are still only 3 Indy films and all is right with the world. Crystal Skull is by far the most disappointing Steven Spielberg film. No question. I cede my time.
Was Tater, you keeping time? What the fuck? I felt like I went piss. I went fucking smoke some weed, and you fucking still going.
He had 8 seconds left on his time, fuck boy.
Yeah, why you
Medivh-
say Tato? Jay took over the fucking time.
90 seconds when you start flapping your fucking gums.
Because it's easier to blame you, Tato. 90 seconds you begin Medivh, and go.
Medivh, 90 seconds when you
don't
begin.
start now. Don't start now. Hold on. You should have started already. Go, whenever you're ready.
All right, I went with The Terminal for a number of reasons. The first thing is Steven Spielberg was coming off of a hot streak in his career. He had done Amistad, Saving Private Ryan, AI, Minority Report, and Catch Me If You Can just before The Terminal had come out. And the main star of The Terminal, Tom Hanks, had also just come off of a bit of a hot streak, including Saving Private Ryan. Sorry, I have the list here. Let me just pull it up. He was coming off of, again, Catch Me If You Can, Road to Perdition, Castaway, The Green Mile, and Toy Story 2. So both of these guys were really in the height of their powers and really doing some of the best works of their careers, having very phenomenal movies made.
30
and
seconds.
then The Terminal came out. And The Terminal has long been thought of as a really weird Tom Hanks performance, not really that good. The whole movie is just kind of all over the place. And no one really enjoys this movie. It's just kind of there. It's one of those weird things where they were both doing so well. They were on a huge
10.
climb. They were getting Oscar nominations, and then doing really well in their careers. And then they just had that weird dive with The Terminal. That's why it's the most disappointing, because you expect so much
time.
based on what have you done recently.
All right. Jump back over to Chad. 2 minutes when you begin specking. You're muted. I got you. Don't worry. Don't break your concentration. You muted yourself. I'm sorry.
I'm good. Yeah, I mean, if you want to come out and say like The Terminal, maybe started, something about like a middling Steven Spielberg, I mean, I don't really agree. I know there's some people who actually don't like The Terminal at all because they think, oh, well, it's just man in terminal, whatever. But I mean, we watched Man on Islands with volleyball for a long time. We can watch Tom Hanks do anything. That dude is just so delightful. He is America's sweetheart. We can watch him in anything, so there's no level of disappointment there. Like, even if it's a middle, like Steven Spielberg had middling movies before The Terminal. He had like Duel, he had that 1941 or whatever the hell it was called. He's had some of the best movies ever made, and he's allowed an okay movie one or here or there. I think The Terminal is pretty great. The Terminal actually has some very positive reviews.
60 fucking seconds.
The Rotten Tomatoes is saying The Terminal transcends its flaws through the sheer virtue of its crowd-pleasing message and a typically solid star turn from Tom Hanks. There's a lot of really positive vibes from it. And this movie just actually makes you feel good by the end. But with Indiana Jones, they made so many bad choices that you make your entire fan base just basically turn on you. It's kind of a Last Jedi style kind of turn of the fans. It's a Game of Thrones level turn. Nobody really likes that film. Even, if it has defenders, people say,
30
it's
seconds.
a decent action film. But this film is not an Indiana Jones film. You have Harrison Ford barely trying in this one. You have Shia LaBeouf barely trying in this one. None of it really works. There's
10.
so much CGI in it. It's not the gritty Indiana Jones that everybody
5.
loves and everybody adores and everybody wants to go back to. No one's really excited to see this character return
1.
now.
Jesus Christ, time.
All right, we're going to jump over to Medivh. 2 minutes when you begin saying words out your face.
Here's the thing with Indiana Jones. It was kind of coming off of in the middle of that low point for Spielberg. Like, he did The Terminal, which was just kind of meh. And then he followed it up with a few other not great movies. And then he did Indiana Jones. Harrison Ford was not in anything consequential in that time. He was doing stuff like Firewall with the guy who ended up playing Vision a couple years later. Both these guys were just kind of in a weird spot of their career where they weren't doing great. They were just kind of doing work for what seems like the paycheck. So really, if you were paying attention, it wasn't really going to be anything hyped. It was only hyped because of the name Indiana Jones, which, if we're being completely honest, is not a name that deserves to be as revered as it is. I think Last Crusade is a great movie. Temple of Doom is extremely racist, especially to someone who looks like me. Raiders of the Lost Ark is always called a perfect movie, but let's be real. That whole movie could have happened and Indiana Jones was not there, and it would have had the exact same outcome. Everyone would have died. They all would have suffered.
60 seconds.
Would have happened. So going off of a franchise that's just kind of a little bit overhyped is not the reason that you want to be like, oh, this is why it's disappointing. No, the franchise overall was not great. It had moments that people enjoyed and moments that were cinematic, but that doesn't make it a great franchise. Whereas for me, I'm going off of the work behind it. Tom Hanks was a huge star doing great films, absolutely great films, and some of his best work in that time period. Steven Spielberg was just coming off of some of his great time period works in
30
in the 90s and the early 2000s. And then they put out this piece of this movie that's just forgettable. And let's be real, the worst thing a movie can be is forgettable. At least if it's a movie that's really bad and you remember it, it's something. But this movie, nobody cares about. I think if you go to the people who were in it, they might forget that they were in the damn movie, including Catherine Zeta-Jones, who was just kind of walking around saying lines. Nothing in this movie is really good, and it just emulates the fact that everyone was just disappointed in the movie.
Time.
All right. So with that said, this is going to be the final round within the main round, the Big Five. Chad Webb, 60 seconds for your closing argument in question 5. Your last chance going into the speed round when you begin speaking.
Look, I mean, Steven Spielberg, one of the greatest directors ever made. You know, he's had some fumbles here, there. Like I said, Duel, 1941, AI, Artificial Intelligence, The Lost World, Jurassic Park. The Terminal, fine. The Terminal, you know, people like, but, you know, maybe not some of the best, but it's definitely not disappointing. You know, you talk about Harrison Ford coming out and not being that great, Indiana Jones not being that great at the beginning. You're fucking insane. Raiders of the Lost Ark was nominated for fucking Best Picture, dude. And then Harrison Ford, he came
30.
back to do Blade Runner 2049 and Star Wars, and he knocked it out of the park both times. He can actually come back and bring his characters back and do justice to them. He did not do that with Indiana Jones, and people felt that. You know, this basically is such a disappointment that people just want to forget that it ever happened.
10.
They want to forget about the aliens. They want to forget about everything to do with this. The Terminal is
5.
a fine movie that people kind of enjoy, but no one really is disappointed by this one at the end of the day.
1. Time.
All right. So the final argument in the main round and the last chance to go to the speed round. Madi, 60 seconds when you begin saying things out of your face.
Sorry, I was frozen for a second on mine. Okay, so here's the thing. Yes, Steven Spielberg is allowed to have misses, but it's the fact that he had a miss after, let's say, about 5 straight hits. AI was a really well-made movie. I don't think you're giving it enough credit for what it was. And we know that he was able to do it because the next movie he made was... he had War of the Worlds, which was Henry's Answer, spoiler alert, which was fine as well. And then he had Munich, so he went kind of on that way up. He's a very capable director, but the fact that he was working with
30.
such a phenomenal cast and it still sank so low that people forgot about it and didn't care about it is why it's disappointing. He came off of so many straight movies that were really good and very beloved movies to something that no one cared about. Whereas with your movie, Indiana Jones is more riding on the fact that it was just the character
10.
and Harrison Ford coming back. But Harrison Ford hadn't done anything since the previous Indiana Jones movie. He'd basically taken a break from acting for being completely real. That's why it wasn't disappointing. You
2,
expected it to be like, all right, it's going to be fun because he's
1.
coming back.
Time.
All right. So with that said, we are at the end of the main round, and I just want to give a shout out to everyone. Obviously, this one went a little longer in tooth just because we're just getting our feet, you know, of the time, how much we want to speak, X, Y, and Z. But with that said, I bought you enough time, Antonio. We're only doing winners at this point because there's only 2. So who won for you this round and why? And try and be a little suspenseful because this is actually really interesting.
Okay. The thing is, I can't avoid. I think you know why I can't be suspenseful with this choice.
We get it.
So,
You love Indiana Jones.
yeah. So pretty much the only bad thing that Chad said was that he said that Duel was a bad Spielberg movie. So he almost lost me a little bit there. But otherwise, everything I agreed with. Even I have to respect the fact that he even see the time in his first argument, and then the fact that he said Tom Hanks can do anything, and I myself enjoy Terminal, whether it's bad or not. But as a Indiana Jones fan, and the fact also that this particular movie took place in my country, I thought it was ultimately disappointing. And yeah, Mehdi lost me when he just said Indiana Jones is a franchise; it's just not revered. So yeah, Chad's the winner in my opinion.
I didn't say not revered. I said overhyped.
All right, so now I'm curious to see if the other two judges are going to be less biased. Jay, who is your winner, and roughly why are they picking that?
Okay. So my winner did an incredible job at really nailing home why they chose the movie that they chose. I'm actually going to go with Mehdi on this one because Chad hit the whole gatekeepery vibe with me and just kept attacking that. Had Mehdi done a little bit more there, it would be one thing. But the fact that he'd come off of banger after Spielberg had come after banger after banger after banger, and then drops us something like this that's just a slog. It is hard to get through, and all I got was, this isn't what the Indiana Jones fan wanted. It's a CGI fest. I don't necessarily agree with everything it is that Mehdi said, but I don't think that Chad did a good enough job trying to defeat what the actual point was. I think he just tried to hit buzzwords, and that's why I'm giving it to Mehdi.
All right, so with that said, it is currently 1-1 with Henry Confidential in the speed round. Jake Tato, who is your winner and who is moving on to the next segment of the show?
Chad did really good, shitting on Shia in Indy 4. However, Mehdi hit it with the racist and how the terminal is forgettable. But my point does go to Chad.
Damn,
Damn.
I had Mehdi going up to that. Wow. So with that said, Chad is going to be moving on to the main round against Henry Confidential. So with that said, at this point, just to give a little insight to the
final
background,
round, not main round.
Yeah, you know what I mean. We're working on it. So with that said, little behind the scenes stuff. Me and Chad don't know what these questions are. So Jake, you are actually going to no. So yeah, 2 questions, up to 2 or up to 3. I'm sorry. So now it's 0-0, best of 3, which it's 2-2. So 2-2-0, however you want to go about it. So it's 2-2. But the point is, we don't know these questions. We're gonna do 20-20-20. Simple as that. So with that said, since I made it to the speed round first, I'm going to choose to go second on the first and third question. Obviously, it's going to go in reverse order. So if we go to the third question, I'll go second on the first and third. So with that said, Tato, read us this question, and we're going to go 20-20-20 after. Oh shit, wrong one. Tato.
Alrighty. What character is the
Pause. I forgot. Now I think about it. We have to shout out the answers. Obviously, I wasn't announced, so yeah, we have to shout out the answers. But I said it as soon as you get the what character thing. It's a pilot episode. All right, so just to refresh everyone, after he says whatever, shout out the answer, and that's the one you stick with. Chad, fair?
Yeah.
And I'm fair, and I'm still gonna go second, obviously. So now Tato, start over, and we're good.
All right, and then just
20-20-20. It's the same thing.
20 seconds.
20-20-20. Yeah, not 20 minutes, my guy.
All right. Yep. What character is the most badass action hero of the 1980s?
Rambo. John Rambo.
Oh fuck.
Exactly.
Come on, son.
Oh, fuck, I'll just say John McClane.
Ooh.
Okay. All right. So with this, just a
And-
reminder, we're gonna go 20, 20, 20. Chad, Henry, Chad, Henry, Chad, Henry. Someone. What's your question, Tato?
I was just gonna say, wouldn't you start since you picked first?
No, I'm going second because don't ask questions that you don't want the answer to. Why is your asshole so dirty? Harold Kumar, go to Guantanamo Bay. Because we acknowledge this behind the scenes. Going second is the advantage. So yes.
Oh my God! Start talking.
All right. So the reason why I think John McClane is the most badass villain of the 80s is because hero of the 80s is because John McClane single-handedly
10.
goes in to take care of everybody in this place,
4,
defeats one of
3,
the scariest villains of all time.
1 time.
And
All
20 seconds goes by fast, bro.
Max. So speaking of so 20 seconds, who's keeping time? You ready?
I am.
I just want to be fair. Okay. I just want to be fair because you never said it, but I was just leading into it. All right. So speaking of single-handedly, John McClane, he defeats a couple people, but also terrorists. John Rambo defeats literally cops within the first one, but also soldiers within 2 and 3 and 4 maybe, and I don't want to go into that. But that said, John Rambo is actually
5,
doing action stuff with arrows and guns and stuff. John
3,
McClane has a single
2,
handgun, but he also needs help from
1
a police
time.
officer down.
Time.
20 seconds, Chad, when you begin.
Rambo has basically the whole forest to play in, but John McClane has just all the resources in this little hotel. He has to compile everything. He has bare feet. He's bloody footed this whole fucking movie. You can't really, do anything when you're bleeding to death.
5.
Oh, I have more time.
4,
He uses
3,
guns.
Not
He
anymore.
uses machine guns, bombs.
So the appeal about John McClane is the fact that he's the every guy man. The fact that everything. It's not an action hero. John Rambo was the epitome of what an action hero, not just the 80s, but of all time. It's one of those things that we brought him back literally in the 2000s, and Rambo from 2008 is a better movie than any Die Hard movie
5,
after that because John Rambo's an action hero, but specifically in the 80s
3,
because he's bringing the
2,
pain because he's a
1
badass
time.
motherfucker.
Time.
Strike badass motherfucker from the record, please.
Whoa, just Ucker. 20 seconds when you begin speaking, Chad.
Wait, this is your final. This is your
Facts.
final 20 seconds.
Facts.
Just as a heads up, try to concisely bring why John McClane is better than John Rambo as an action hero from the 80s, is the best action hero from the 80s.
Just like you said with John Rambo, I'm with John McClane. You can identify with him. He's badass because he basically foils this whole organization's plans, in this limited space.
10.
He wasn't planning for this. He wasn't preparing for this. John Rambo just basically cries a lot at the end of his movie
5,
about what happened to him in the war. It's not really that interesting. And,
1
Die
time.
Hard's the best movie ever made.
Luckily, Die Hard is the best
Yes.
movie ever made. It's stricken for the record.
Stricken from the record.
'Cause
I'm so glad nobody gets to let you live that statement
whether
now.
that's right or wrong, that's a strong
Best
point.
ever made.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Holy
It's stricken
shit.
for the record. All right.
Stricken from the record. 20 seconds, Henry. Final 20. John Rambo, best action star of the 80s. 20 seconds
All right.
when you start.
John McClane only had one movie from the 80s, so the fact that he's okay in terms of quote unquote the everyday man, whatever. But John Rambo has multiple movies in the 80s, but he's also more of an action hero. He's also more of a badass. He's doing more stuff with guns, arrows, and he has more stuff than crime. You've only seen the first one. That's on you, by the way. He does more action stuff in 2 and 3, but
5,
also in the 80s. And he's a badass. John McClane, he
3,
shoots a gun and he's more talkative.
2,
And guess what? He's putting his
1
pose in
time. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfuckers.
All right, so we are gonna start with I'm sorry, I had it fucked up.
Let's start with Madi, seeing as he's no longer in here. He is now the new judge.
All right,
What?
fuck, I don't give a shit. All right, so this is the pilot episode. All right,
I
so
didn't take notes, but fuck it. What was the wording of the question? The exact wording of the question?
yeah, that's on Tato. Read the wording of the question. Then we're gonna go Madi, Jay, Antonio, and Tato. Who's your 2 and who's your 1, and I'll do the average.
What character is the most badass action hero of the 80s?
Madi, who's your 2 and who's your 1?
I'm gonna say Henry's my 2, Chad's my 1, and I think it's because he's talking about how John McClane is just because he's the everyman, but he's bleeding and he's still doing all this stuff, and he's in a confined space. He doesn't have the whole play area where he can kind of find resources. That was a big point for me of why he's more, I guess, more badass.
Jay, who's your 2 and who's your 1?
Taking that dumbass 7-word sentence that Chad had out of the equation at the very end of his argument, I'm actually going to go with Chad at my number 1, Henry at my number 2. Henry gave a lot of reasons as to why somebody would be badass. I didn't hear a lot of, hey, Rambo isn't a little bitch crying in a cave. I'm going with Chad on this one. I'm sorry.
All right.
I am.
Antonio, who's your 2 and who's your 1?
Damn.
No, go with your notes. Don't base on what the votes are. Go with your notes.
No, I'll go. No, just going. So yeah, I honestly I put Chad at 2 and Henry at 1. Kind of lost me a little bit when he kind of disrespected by veterans by saying that they're crying and I mean it's PTSD. But despite all that, he still took down a whole town essentially by himself, and that's just in one movie.
He took down 8 dudes, but
and
okay.
he didn't really kill anybody. That's even better. Like the fact that he
I didn't say that. Though. I didn't say that. I
You
didn't
didn't say that.
But either way,
let him judge, and we'll judge him on his judging after.
So
Let
just
him judge.
just Chad going with the whole thing with the every man thing. I get it, but just still it kept them just being repetitious to me at least. So that's why I went with Rambo.
All right, and Tato, who's your 2 and who's your 1?
Chad is my 2. Henry is my 1. Rambo fucking killing everyone and doing more work in the 80s. As per the question, got me.
All right, and now that I'm regretting this beforehand, Madi, you technically weren't a judge, so your vote doesn't count. Henry gets 2 points. I'm just once it tied, I
100% agree. I 100% agree with that.
So with that said, Henry's going to get the point 3-2 going into question 2. Here's a reminder: we don't know the answers going ahead of time. So, Tato, read the question, and we're going to say it, and then Chad, you were going to be going second on this, to be fair, and I will be going second on the next one. There's not who gives a fuck who says it first.
John Chadhard, you did a really good job, buddy.
You had my vote. It doesn't count.
Yeah,
you had it.
Good shit, lollipop. Question number 2. Who is the funniest comedic actor working today?
If one of y'all says some dumbass shit like Amy Schumer.
You can use any research you want.
Chad, you can Google if you need to.
Let's not go over a minute, but you can do some research. It's not
from
starting now, 60 seconds or less.
You want to go to War Block?
Shut up, Tato.
Shut your fucking ass up.
You have until 1:57:50 to get your answer in.
That's racist.
Tato, I'm gonna revoke your judging.
We're gonna swap Tato with Madi. So
I might. Don't fuck around, Tato.
I might.
Coming up on that 30-second mark, fellas.
Okay. Ryan Reynolds.
Okay, you got 30 seconds, Chad.
Okay.
Just quickly Google funny people. 20 seconds.
Yeah, no, I'm between 2.
You're gonna get
Adam
Sandler and Seth Rogen.
No, I'm gonna say I'll go with Will Ferrell.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We started with Chad last time, so we start with Henry this time, correct?
Yep.
Okay, Henry.
We'll give about 10 seconds just to get our thoughts together.
Exactly. I was gonna say I'm gonna give you until 1:58:30, and then I'm gonna call time, and then I need y'all to start your arguments in about a 10-second frame. So you got 15 seconds left. Formulate your argument.
Trying to see what Henry's writing.
Shut up. Get on my shit. Okay.
All right, you got 5 seconds left to formulate the argument. I'm gonna call time, pens down, whatever you want to fucking call it. We're gonna start with Henry. Henry,
20
20 seconds when you start.
All right. So Ryan Reynolds is the best comedic actor working today because you wouldn't have IP such as Deadpool and Free Guy. They wouldn't work without Ryan Reynolds at the shtick. You wouldn't have Detective Pikachu without the Ryan Reynolds thing. Sure, you can say the movie doesn't hold up as well just because Ryan Reynolds is doing Ryan Reynolds, but that's the best part about it. You have literally Hitman's Bodyguard 1 and 2 because he's a fantastic comedic actor who has perfect timing and he knows exactly what he's doing. Like I said, Deadpool 1, it's so meta and he knows exactly what he's doing because he's doing Ryan Reynolds.
Strike Reynolds from the argument. Chad, 20 seconds. Will Ferrell, best comedic actor working today. 20 seconds when you start.
Ever since he started, Will Ferrell has always been funny. From Step Brothers to Fire Saga, everything he's doing today is still very, very funny. Ryan Reynolds is focused on doing action today. Yes, he did Deadpool. That's great, but he's really focused on that action career for some reason. When he is funny, but I think that Will Ferrell is the funnier.
I appreciate you not going over and me not having to strike. So points to you for that. Henry, 20-second rebuttal. Time starts when you start speaking.
The reason that Ryan Reynolds is the best comedic actor working today is because we wish that Will Ferrell wasn't a comedic actor today. Every movie that he's had is trash in the last recent memory. Downhill, Daddy's Home 1 and 2, The House, Get Hard, and whatever that one is. Ryan Reynolds, you say he's the action thing, but guess what? All the ones you memorize are the ones that are the comedic ones. Like I said, both Deadpool 1 and 2, Detective Pikachu, and Free Guy.
Strike Free Guy from the record. Chad, 20 seconds when you start speaking. I will be a dick about that time.
That's fair.
I mean, Will Ferrell is the one coming up with all the great original characters that you know and love. The Anchormans, the guy from the Lego movie, Mugatu from Zoolander. He's the one from your childhood that you love throughout. Ryan Reynolds is just keep trying to adapt a bunch of things, and it's the same character over and over. It's very tired.
2, 1. Time. I kind of respect that. I'm not going to give you points for it, but I respect it. Henry, last 20 seconds. Ryan Reynolds, best comedic actor working today. Sum it up when you start talking.
So you say that Ryan Reynolds is just overdoing IP that's already known, but guess what? We wouldn't know Deadpool without Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. We wouldn't know Free Guy without Ryan Reynolds as Free Guy. At this point, no one's talking about Pikachu without Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu. No one is talking about Will Ferrell today. Every character that you mention is not quote unquote in present day. It's because guess what? Everything that Will Ferrell is doing today sucks. Ryan Reynolds is a badass action or comedy, but especially comedy.
Straight comedy.
Ashley comedy.
Ashley comedy.
Chad, last 20 seconds. Sum up Will Ferrell, best comedic actor working today. Time starts when you start speaking.
I know you keep getting stuck on the Deadpool. That's great. Deadpool's funny. Whatever. It's fine. But the thing about it is, Will Ferrell has been here our whole lives with Elf, classic movies like Zoolander,
10.
Elf, Anchorman. He's just been basically, and then recently with Eurovision Song Contest, they've
5.
been winning Academy Awards, doing great things our whole lives. He
2,
is one of the greatest funny
1.
men ever.
All right, so with that said, I want to start off by saying since technically Medi's vote didn't count in the first round, Jay would have been first. We're going to start off with Antonio. Roughly speaking, who's got your vote and why?
It's you again, bro. Chad just lost me by saying that Ryan's just doing action movies. I'm just and kept saying that the one movie that Will's done that's even barely recent is Fire Saga, and he kept bringing up characters from the 2000s. It's pretty much been at least a good 15 years. So yeah, I don't know. That just kept resonating with me. Nothing really fairly recent that I can think of, and yeah, everything that Will's done is passionate. What's your take on that? So yeah, you get my vote.
All right. So with that said, Tato, roughly speaking, who's got your vote and why?
You're muted, Tato.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, I'm the first person to be muted in this fucking video.
Hey, Tato, if you want to get muted again, keep that shit up.
You're a shit.
All right. So Tato,
Henry,
speaking, who's got your vote and why?
Henry, you got it. Just pointed out the fucking versatility of Ryan Reynolds right now. whereas Will Ferrell's kind of coming up short.
There you go. Just out of curiosity, as everyone showed up, and I really appreciate you showing up, Jay. Who's got your vote and why? Regardless, pretend the other scores didn't exist. Who would you have said?
Honestly, I would have said Chad. Had you brought up Holmes and Watson, you would have cleared this. I think Chad did a really good job at saying, yeah, Ryan Reynolds does moderately funny shit. But you continued to hammer home Deadpool. There are definitely funnier movies that Ryan Reynolds has done. But he really kind of nailed home the fact that he's focused more on action movies at this point in time in his career, whereas Chad, might have chosen a couple of older movies of Will Ferrell's, but he did also bring up the fact that Will Ferrell is that person who has been there from childhood, who has done funny movies. It would have been Chad for me.
There you go. And out of curiosity, I'm not sure how well you paid attention, but D, who would you have voted for? You're here.
I also kind of would have went with Chad on that one, but
fuck.
No, it really was.
That's just awkward. Like, what do we do? Let's do it. Let's do question 3.
Quick,
Chad.
ask nakedhd.xyz online.
Yeah, you try to do question 3?
Henry.
I challenge. I concede the point. Let's do question 3. I know, bitch. I'm a D.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going pee and I'm listening. Let's go.
All right,
We're gonna wait.
I had to pee.
We're gonna wait until he gets back, and
Okay.
it's mainly because we only got about 20 minutes. Yeah, Chad, run and take that pee real fast, boy.
Wait, Madi, so finish saying what your point is.
Yeah.
You didn't even get to finish.
Henry just decided to listen to the beginning and then.
Yeah, but continue because I actually want to hear it.
So it was kind of in the same vein. So it wasn't just the fact that Chad brought up so the Fire Saga and Eurovision one, which is a more recent one, but he's also been doing comedic and focusing on comedy for the last however long. So it was kind of similar to what the sentiments Jay was saying, whereas Henry kind of focused in on about like 3 or 4 movies that were funny by Ryan Reynolds. So it was like Detective Pikachu and the Deadpool movies, and then that was it. Right? And he
Detective
said
Pikachu, an action movie where Ryan Reynolds isn't the focus.
Yeah.
Deadpool, which is
an action movie
which
that
is
has-
an action
and-
movie that
yeah.
has a comedic portion to it. I'm sorry, Midi, I didn't mean to step on you there, boy.
Yeah.
And the Deadpool movies, both 1 and 2, action movies with comedic elements to them.
Yeah, so that was kind of the same thinking that I was doing. Like he's doing a lot of action movies that just have comedy in them. It's the same reason I wouldn't say Jackie Chan is a great comedic actor, because he's doing
He's
action
a great
comedy.
action actor who does good comedy bits.
Yeah,
He says the N-word in Rush Hour.
and that was funny in the moment, but none of y'all have that card.
Excuse me, I have that card.
Okay,
I have
Jay
it in
gets
my
a pass.
wallet.
Jay gets a pass, but the rest of y'all,
You're muted.
Everyone, chill.
All right, so luckily
He's
you guys
mad
didn't
the
hear me.
more we think about it.
You guys are lucky.
Mad.
You guys are lucky I muted. I literally said I'm team 21%. Don't make me say it. All right, so with that said, Madi,
Naive.
Madi. So I challenged Chad. Austin wrote the question. Let's do it for fun, even though. Madi, pick a number 1 through 10.
9.
Okay. Jay, 1 through 10.
6 to make 69.
Antonio, 1 through
dude.
10.
2.
And Jake, 1
Bitch.
through 10.
Try shot.
See, there you go. 3, 6, 9.
So here it is.
Damn, she fine.
Madi, you chose 7, which is really close to 9. Jay,
chose
you
9,
closed
which
5,
is
which
close
is
to
really
7.
close to 6. And Tato, you closed 1, which is really next to 3. So unfortunately, Antonio, you're going to sit out this one, and we're just going to do 3 judges just to be fair. So it's 1 per each. All right. That was the best way to do that. So with that said,
Is that your bank pin number, by the way? Just so we
Yes. Yes. It's also naked XYZ's
there's my
online
pin.
pin number.
Fuck. All right. So with that said, hold on. All jokes aside. With that said, Chad, because I really appreciate you doing this. Do you want to go first or second? You'll end. So do you want to end 1st or second?
I'll go second.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
All right. So Tato,
Respect
you're
it.
the only one who knows this question. You are a judge is alongside Madi, Jay, and yourself. Read the question out and same rules.
What is the best horror sequel of all time?
I'm glad I'm out of this.
I will give y'all until I'm gonna give you a little extra time. I'm gonna give you until 2 minutes and 10. I'm gonna give you till 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Which is the fact that
One
we've done
and
this
a
long.
half minutes right now. Go.
I'm gonna go ahead and just say Evil Dead 2.
Dr. Sleep.
Okay. Ooh, okay.
Erectile dysfunction 2.
I'm gonna get a beer, but I can hear you. I promise. Don't let that. Or no, I'm going first. I'll be right back.
Let me get some water.
Doctor
Chad, add some vodka to that water, bro. You need it.
Strange.
Don't judge me. I'm sorry. I fucked up. I was looking
Yes,
at your face.
Doctor Strange, not Doctor Sleep or anything. Yeah.
Doctor Strange.
All right. So with that
Yeah, I
said,
know,
we're going
I know,
we're going
fuck
into
boy.
the legitimate final question. When Chad gets back, I will start my 60 seconds. Whoever's keeping time. Once a reminder, Tato, Jay, and Medee, you're the judges.
Hold
Antonio, if you want, just for practice on judging, keep track. I'm going first, but I'm just going to wait for him so you can hear me.
Well, I'll
on.
come back real quick.
My question to you
Yes, sir.
is: this is a speed round, yes?
Yeah, still 20, 20, 20.
Then you said 60 seconds first.
I'm
That's all.
just, yeah, 20,
okay.
yeah,
okay.
20, 20, 20.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I knew that going in, but yes, the person keeping
got
time.
you.
20, 20, 20. All right, so with that said, Evil Dead 2 is not that much of a horror movie, but also it's just a rehash of the first one. So the fact that it's the best horror sequel of all time doesn't really make sense because Evil Dead 1 is a better horror movie. Evil Dead 2, not that horror. Dr. Sleep, you don't even need that to
5.
be. You don't need to see The Shining because the Dr. Sleep stands on its own, but it's also a fantastic sequel. I'll get more when we start talking.
Time. Good use of your time. Chad, best horror sequel of all time. Why is it your choice? Tell us what it is. Bump 20 seconds when you start talking.
Evil Dead 2 basically takes everything from the Evil Dead and improves upon it. Evil Dead 2 is the movie that Sam Raimi wanted to make when he made the Evil Dead. Evil Dead 2 is not just a comedy. Evil Dead 2 is
10.
really, really scary. When you have, the grandma in the basement
5.
and you have all of the jump scares, it is so great. Where Dr. Sleep just
2.
does not hold the candle to The
1.
Shining.
Time. Okay. Henry, rebuttal. 20 seconds when you start speaking. The floor is
So
yours.
Dr. Sleep is the greatest horror sequel of all time because Rosa Hat is one of the greatest horror characters of all time. She's scary. Everything they do with the boy, the baseball scene is fantastic, but also everything that you do bringing in The Shining, but
10.
also the horrific elements of the metaphors with alcoholism, but also the horrific imagery that you have in The
5.
Shining from the past sequence that you bring back, but also the new sequences in The Shining, like I said, with the Black Cat
Time.
Rose.
Chad, rebuttal round. 20 seconds when you start speaking.
There are so many horror, innovations that happen with Evil Dead 2 with the camera sequences, the camera shots that Sam Raimi just went out of his way to make
10.
for horror because of that movie. You cannot live up to The Shining. The Shining is perfect.
5.
Talk about camera fucking brilliance. Stanley Kubrick, you cannot top him
1.
with The Shining.
Time.
Final 20 seconds.
Yep.
When I begin speaking. I love that you had said the only horrific points that you have for Evil Dead 2 is everything with Sam Raimi. Guess what? He started that in Evil Dead 1. Everything in Dr. Sleep, it's sure. The question is not what sequel is
10.
better than the original. It's what is the best horror sequel because it lives up on its own, but also as a sequel. And Mike Flanagan is
5.
one of the best horror directors working today
4.
because he's a fantastic
3.
director as horror.
2.
And Dr. Sleep is the best
1.
one because
Time.
it lives up on its own.
Dr. Sleep is the best will be the only thing taken into consideration by the judges.
It works for me.
Chad, final 20 seconds. Evil Dead 2, best horror sequel of all time. Finish up everything, wrap it up with a nice, neat little bow. 20 seconds when you start talking.
Dr. Sleep is Mike Flanagan's self-indulgence. It's very, very long. It's way too long. The average horror fan is not going to want to watch that shit. Evil Dead 2 is fun from beginning
10.
to end, and it also so very, very scary because you get
5.
all of these sequences
4.
of things just jumping out at you. It's just the scarier movie.
1. Time.
All right, so with that said, just a reminder, we went with Tato, Jay, and Medee as our judges for the last one. Question 7 of the night. Tato, in 15 seconds or less, who are you going with?
Chad. It was scarier, had more innovation.
There you go. Jay, in 15 seconds or less, who are you voting for?
I love the fact that like Carrie seems to come out of nowhere and roast.
During a horror question?
Fucking scary Carrie.
He comes out of nowhere and roasts Chad. My thing about that is I think with the fact that it's self-indulgent, the fact that nobody can hold a candle to what Kubrick did with The Shining, I'm actually going to give this one to Chad. He had the slight edge by just the fucking slightest of margins. You wanted to say that he did his best work. Raimi did his best work in the first Evil Dead movie. I think Chad had a pretty decent guard and combo comeback with that by stating, you might be right, but nobody can hold a candle to Kubrick. And at least it was the same director for this one. So that would have been my vote. That would have been my vote.
Obviously, just because we don't want to shut you out, Madi, who would you have gone with?
I also went with Chad just because it was more of this one is a better sequel, not just, the whole, like, he talked more about why Evil Dead 2 was better than the previous film, whereas yours was just like, it's a great movie and there's scary elements, but yeah, Chad knocked you down with it doesn't hold a candle to the original, which you couldn't really back on because,
Yeah.
And your winner with a score
Chazic Weeb
of 5-4 to Madi showed up. Chad Wick Webb. Chad, everyone here is a part of Movie Battleground, which is the current general movie trivia debate or movie debate, quote unquote, league that we've all been a part of. But this is the first debate you've maybe done outside. Correct me if I'm wrong. What were your thoughts on just the general format? Obviously, we got to get the timing down. That's just, it is what it is. It's the first one. But in terms of just the concept of this show in comparison to Battleground, not saying better or worse, just style wise, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on just overall your experience tonight?
Yeah, I thought the format was actually really great. I actually prepped for this a little more than
I saw you reading your
I
fucking
thought
notes
maybe.
every question. I know you prepped for this.
I wrote notes. Yes, I
I know
watched
you did.
movies for this.
I love it,
didn't
though.
win. I didn't. I lost really badly a lot of some of the ones that I thought I might win. But it is what it is. You guys really brought it. I thought it was really great. I absolutely adore freaking Pineapple Express and Dr. Sleep. So that was hard to kind of fight against those. Luckily, I only had to do the 60 seconds to fight against Dr. Sleep. And a lot of it was talking up Evil Dead 2, which I also really, really love. I'm glad that I won the Harry Potter thing because that's like one
If
of
you
my
didn't,
big
that would have been
passions.
embarrassing. You had the right answer.
Right. But the thing about it is I just, I loved facing against you guys. I might have to face against one of you in Battlegrounds at some point, and it's going to be very hard because you guys are freaking amazing. But I love the format. I think this could turn into a legitimate league, Henry, if you really wanted to take the time to actually do that. I like the format that you did. I like how you have it where you have, people get their strengths, people get to choose first. I don't know. We'll have to see if that holds up as something that makes it really fair, makes it for people. Because then you can have some people come out with I feel like though every single person who picked a strength and picked their number one answer, they always won.
Yeah.
So,
but we're the best. We're the best of the best. So it's one of those where it's sometimes I don't know. Like you said, we'll have to test it on randos and see if that concept works.
I think we also need to fix maybe the judging situation, because I don't know if I a judge coming out and paying attention and throwing out other stuff just to not get counted. I feel like that.
I do try and call them out, but yes, that is one thing that obviously that's just one of those things. So just to give a little insight behind the scenes, I was like, yo, I want you guys to talk more because I want you guys to explain more why. Plus, not against, and some did do the against, but that's more of whether you say it or not, judges are going to think that. So I'm not calling out you three, just inherently judges do that. So I understand. I was hoping more of the talking more would be the plus, not the against. But it's always a work in progress with judges. I appreciate anyone who ever does anything for me, and anyone watches this who judges the Battleground. We all know that you have everyone has their own process of judging. So I get what you mean, Chad, but yes, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought it's a great format, and I would love to play again. It's always very stressful, but very fun when it happens and then when it's over. But yeah, I mean, it's also definitely just really crazy to fight you and Madi because
that was a blast.
Like you said, the best of the best, and it's just hard to you think you have everything prepared, and you're like, I got the best choice. And then you're like, oh shit, no,
and
I
it
guess
didn't
not.
go as planned. So yeah, I'm gonna jump over to Madi. So Madi, this was actually the best of both worlds for you because A, at this point mentally you were a better debater, but also B, you don't give a shit. You're not prepping. You didn't do that, but obviously the proof was in the pudding. Obviously you didn't make it to the final round, but you literally pushed it to the limits in every question for a reason. At no point, I think you came in last in like one vote in all the questions. Like, you know what I mean? It's one of those, like, you did a fantastic job. So with that said, what were your thoughts on tonight? Both the concept of this in comparison to Battleground, but also just you as a competitor, as a player.
I mean, yeah, I didn't really prep. I did prep for one question, kind of.
Which one? Now we got to know.
I watched one movie in preparation for this, and it was War of the Worlds, which Henry didn't even get to bring up because he was already in the next round.
And I'm so glad that was the one I was least confident. I'm like, I need to win. I need to go into the speed round because I do not want to.
I was like the one. I was like, this is the one I've actually. I watched it today, like 5 hours ago.
Do you agree with me, or are you?
No, I thought it was fine.
That
I
movie
thought it was
sucks.
okay.
I like
that movie
that.
Sucks.
The movie's not good. The movie's not good.
It's not great.
Like it.
It's not. It's not.
No,
that
it
great.
sucks. It sucks. All right, but anyway, keep going.
I had like a little bit of an argument prepared, but I was like, it's Henry's show. Like I don't prepare for Henry stuff, and that's not dissing on you.
No, good
That's
answer. Don't get drunk or high and let's fucking have some fun.
Yeah, like with like that's the whole reason I stopped doing trivia because I was like, I don't want to.
The plan was to only last an hour, and we're almost at 2.5 hours. We're just having more fun than what the concept required. We are just badasses.
This reminds me of the first debate that me and you had on
the 3-on-3.
No, the 2-on-2 with
it was me and Mike against you and Andrew.
No, me and Mike and you and Andrew.
Oh yeah. Well, of course, me and Andrew fucked you guys up.
Nah, man, I don't remember.
Okay, moving
with that said, yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's just chill. And the fact that I prepared for one question and it disappeared, that's great.
That was part of my plan.
Either way, both of you guys are in Battlegrounds, and I'm planning on facing at least one of you in the near future.
Good answer.
I can't tell you why though, or what's going on.
So yeah, as a player, I'm gonna be real honest. I only watched War of the Worlds just because it was my answer, and I'm glad I have to defend it. Because granted, that movie sucks, but I haven't seen King of the Crystal Skull, so I wouldn't have actual evidence to back it up of why that's not that bad. I could have gone the disappointing route, and honestly, Madi, you had my vote. You fucking sold me on the terminal as being disappointed because of like, dude, that track record. That's good with disappointment. Yeah, dude. Chad and Madi, you guys stepped it up as competitors, but also just showing out. It's an exhibition, and guess what? We played it like Chad. You actually convinced me, like, you know, depending on obviously we got the audience, we have the players, but like league wise, this could become a thing because like this was legit. Obviously, we got to tighten up the timing wise, but in terms of just the format and everything itself, it was fantastic. These judges, we rag on Tato because it's so easy, and Antonio, this is your first time ever doing this, so obviously there's some kinks you got to work out. But in terms, and Jay, you're just a wild boy, so it's hard to like obviously get all of you guys to be perfect, but you guys did a fantastic job. So with that said, Tato, in 1 second or less. Yes or no? Would you ever do this again? All right, Jay, what was your thoughts on tonight's match?
I actually really liked it. I always try to bring a little bit of a positive and a negative to what every debater brings to the table. If it doesn't happen, it's because I'm not trying to take too long. That being said, I would love it if Chad, Henry, and Madi judged a debate between me, this potato up here, and that New York potato over there.
Let's go. Next.
Run it back.
I'm set. Stay in the group chat. I'll write the questions.
I'm excited about that.
Antonio, this is your first time doing anything debate related. First of all, what were your obviously as a fan of the movie Trivia Schmodown and the movie fights, long time speaking, you have at least experience with all this shit, but like firsthand, what were your thoughts of the questions, the competitors, and the concept of judging? Because you're the first person in a long time that's 100% unbiased, kind of fresh. What are your thoughts?
I like the format, and I actually love the questions. I thought everything was like very diverse, like pretty much
Austin
went to
Petzal,
everything.
shout out. He wrote it. He's
Yeah,
not here
for
tonight.
real.
I want to give him the credit he deserves. Great job.
And all
Don't
you
give him
guys,
any credit. He likes the killing joke.
Yeah, and I
No, he
respect
didn't like it.
and I respect all you guys. So therefore, it was interesting to hear like your unique opinions. I would like to do this again, but I honestly just don't. I don't mean to bring things down. I just don't think I'm that good of a judge. So that's why maybe I don't feel like maybe I was. I don't know. Maybe even though it's the
Your
first
first time, I
time,
promise you, you get into it's like movie trivia. Guess what? When you're a movie fan, you're like, oh yeah, I've seen Jaws.
I thought
Who
you were
directed it?
good.
Who
No.
directed it?
Antonio,
Listen.
you realize I exist, right?
No, I know, but it's also because I can't
Unfortunately.
help. Because I mean, I appreciate you calling me unbiased, but I also feel like I can't help but be like a little bit like non-subjective and kind of biased. Like
Then
especially like
just
Indiana
as a
Jones.
judge, because I like your opinions on movies. Take notes. Do tally marks when people talk. Don't even think about.
Oh yeah, I started
either.
doing
Yeah,
it, and then I just couldn't help but like still like
That's fair.
I was did like 3 times.
I respect you for being honest. Most judges won't because they just want camera time. So with that said, this was the first episode of the War Room. This was more of a pilot episode. They're never going to be perfect on the first episode, both timing wise, both structure wise, format wise, all that stuff. But with that said, I feel like everyone agrees that we have the general principle down. And shout out to Madi, shout out to Chad, because guess what? I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know at some point I would love to debate you guys like in a quote unquote league format where like, even though we all took this seriously, even though Madi didn't prep, he still took the debate seriously, and we all know that because I fucking sweated. So with that said, I would like to play you guys in a format, whether it's here in the War Room where I turn this into Lee, or over in Battleground in either me versus Madi in the finals. Who knows if I beat Sean? Who knows if he beat Jeremy? Who potentially beat Joe? And then Chad. If one of us loses, then we might play you if you beat JPO. No spoilers for everything. With that said, shout out to Jake Tato Reese, and shout out to Jay Burns. Go subscribe and watch his Twitch. And also stay live because apparently this went really long and we're about to stay live and do his 1v1 vs JPO. Shout out to Antonio, even though you have any confidence in himself as a judge. Shout out to Carrie, who was in the background multiple times this episode. Can't wait to get her into a debate where she's going to fuck all these nerds up. Henry Confidential, you guys are the best. I'm okay. But guess what? If you guys don't like it, that's okay because nobody's perfect. So fuck.